I mean, why would you do that to yourselves? Like, what do I need to tell you guys? And get rid of those iPads. Like, okay, after today, I don't want you guys using iPads ever again. Isn't it embarrassing if you just get the same score? I mean, I'm not saying all of you. Some of you actually did really well. But some people, like, why do you come here? Why do you come here? Why? I don't understand. Is it because your parents forced you to? Do you even study for the vocab? And for this test, did you even look words up? Okay, who looked words up for this test? Who looked up the vocab? Well, I mean, okay, 2 people. Why? What about other people? Why wouldn't you guys look it up? Like, okay, like we talked about, are you just saying, okay, like how is that even possible? I don't get it. Like you're reading the passage and then you come across a word that you don't know, you just let it go? How is that even possible? Is that yourself just telling me, okay, I'm just gonna close my eyes for the rest of my life. I'm just gonna stay ignorant. Is that your mentality when you're going through something? Like, doesn't it even bother you that you don't know a word? This thing, it's testing you on like how well you're gonna be able to do in college, right? If you don't know a word, obviously you're less prepared for college. Wouldn't that mean that? Wouldn't you feel a little bit of shame? Wouldn't you want to actually look some of the words up? Why do you want to sit over here? That spot, it's not a good spot to look at the passage. Guys, no wonder your score is not going up. Okay, again, I'm not speaking for all of you. I apologize for those of you who are doing what we're supposed to do. But I mean, what are you doing? What are you guys doing? And you somehow magically think your score is going to increase? What kind of reasoning is that? Okay, let's take a look at this passage. So it didn't say anything. Didn't say anything in the prologue. So what is this going to ask? It's going to ask you what happens in the passage. Okay, usually when it's about characterization, they're going to give out certain information. If it's like, remember the Jane Eyre passage. The Jane Eyre passage, it told us that Jane Eyre's the governess at the whatever Thornfield Hall estate or whatever, and then Adele's Jane's student, blah blah blah. It gave us a lot of information here, and then based on that, you were to characterize Jane, Adele, and what was that? What was her name? I forgot her name. Anyway, but here, okay, so same as that professor passage. Like in the beginning, it starts off with saying, no man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake in the choice of his profession. Remember that passage? That passage was for you to figure out what's actually happening. Same for this passage. It doesn't give you any information, so you need to figure out, well, one, I guess who she is, right? And what's her thing? Like what's actually happening, right? That is for you to figure out. That's what the passage is telling you to do, okay? So let's take a look here. It was not often that she came to the place stirred to her heart's core by actualities. Okay, so, okay, so like who understood this sentence when they read it? Okay, so if you don't understand the first sentence of the literature passage, chances are you're not going to know what's going on. I mean, you're going to get some hints here, but I mean, why I'm telling you this is, I mean, well, wouldn't you actually look this word up if you're like a thinking human being? Why wouldn't you guys look this up? If it's a passage like this, if I had trouble while I'm reading it, I would go crazy. I would look it up. Is that just me? Is that just me? Am I the weird person here? Like, if I don't understand, I want to look things up. No, honestly, like I'm not. Okay, I don't want to say this word, but when I was your age, if I didn't understand things, I would look it up. I mean, why wouldn't you guys look up words that you don't understand? Why? It just blows my mind. Why would you ever do that? And I even told you guys, if you don't know, like I specifically remember this. I told you guys, if I ask you guys a certain word and you guys didn't write a definition right next to it, I will ask you to leave. Do you guys remember that? You guys remember that, right? Like I told you that and you still wouldn't look it up? What do I need to do to make you guys do this? What exactly do I need to do? Okay. Okay, I will give up on you guys. Okay. I mean, for those of you who are doing it, it's fine. But I mean, I don't know why you're here though. Like, okay, I'm just gonna pretend like you're not here, okay? I'm just gonna assume you did everything that we talked about, okay? It was not often that she came to the place, stirred to her heart's core by actuality. So whatever this is, okay, so let's pretend this is something that you don't know. Let's pretend that this is something that you don't know, but you know that this stirred her heart. I mean, okay, whatever this is, it stirred her heart. It stirred to her heart's core, whatever. It means that it moved her, right? I mean, that at least you can deduce from this, right? So whatever this is, this moved her, right? This moved her. And then it says, today a low song of longing had been set singing in her heart. Okay, so what does it mean to long for something? That I feel like you guys should know. What does it mean to long for something? Huh? To want something? Yes, to want something, right? Today, a low song of longing had been set singing in her heart, right? Okay, so she wanted something, right? So it's probably, so she was moved, she wanted something by the finery, the merriment, the beauty she had seen. So I don't know what the thing is that she's seen. This is what College Born wants us to figure out, because it didn't give us any information in the very beginning, in the prologue. So whatever these are, she was affected by this and she wants something. I don't know what she wants exactly either. And then it says, oh, these women. Okay, so I don't know who these are, but potentially there's a characterization here, right? Because it's people. So what's the characterization? Oh, these women who had passed her by, hundreds and hundreds strong. Who were they? Okay, so this is what? This is, okay, I mean, the title said it's Sister Carrie, so let's say our character's name is SC, or SC looks at these women, right? So it's one of these, right? SC's view of these women. So what does she think? I mean, she's just like, okay, who are these people? And she was just curious about these people, I guess. Whence came the rich, elegant dresses? Okay, so this we know about these people. Rich. Okay, so I'll just get rich. Rich, elegant dresses, the astonishingly colored buttons, the knickknacks of silver and gold. Okay, so I get this. This is all about rich up till here. Okay, so for these women, rich, right? Where were these lovely creatures housed? Okay, so this is how she viewed them, lovely. So I'm just gonna say, okay, so she had a positive view of these women. Amid what elegancies of carved furniture, decorated walls, elaborate tapestries did they move? Okay, so she was just, I guess it's her being curious about their lives, right? Okay, so what kind of furniture did they use? What kind of walls, right? What did their houses look like? Okay, so she was curious about this. So far we have this. Where were their rich apartments loaded with all that money could provide? Okay, so no new information. Okay, so starting from here, it's just all Sister Carrie's view on these women, right? She was curious, and she had a relatively positive view of them. It wasn't like she was envious of them or like jealous of them. She was just like, oh, you know, like what do these people wear, and how do these people live? Where do they live? That kind of thing, right? In what stables champed these sleek, nervous horses and rested the gorgeous carriages? Okay, where lounged the richly groomed footmen? Okay, so it's still we're on that, right? Still we're on the same characterization. We found a point of repetition, so you're just going to skim from the here, right? Oh, the mansions, the lights, the perfume. I think I get it, right? So up till here. So you should have did that. Okay, so I mean I don't know if the next sentence, New York must be filled with such bowers. Okay, so I guess this is like her first time in New York. That you can infer, right? I mean, she's just like, oh, you know, New York must be filled with these people. New York must have a lot of these, right? I mean, if she lived in New York for her entire life, she probably wouldn't be saying this, right? Okay, so New York must be filled with such bowers, or the beautiful, insolent, supercilious creatures could not be. Some hothouses held them. So she was just like, oh, you know, like, do they all just live in one place? It ached her to know. Okay, so you need to stop here. Why? Because, I mean, up till this point, it's been the positive characterization that we've been seeing. Right? They're like, okay, where do these lovely people live? Like, what kind of lives do they lead? Oh, I'm kind of curious about them, right? And these people are just rich people, rich women to be exact, I guess, when in dresses, blah, 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 stuff like that. But what about this? It ached her. Okay, so that's a new characterization that you need to get. Okay, so this, I say, would be our first characterization. Our second characterization is her, okay, Carrie, aching. I don't know why yet. It said, it ached her to know that she was not one of them. Okay, so we did have a little bit of envy here, right? That, alas, she had dreamed a dream, and it had not come true. Oh, wait. What is this about? She had dreamed a dream and it not come true. Okay, so this is not about ache either. So again, so we have something else. But I'm just gonna, okay, I'll just group it with number 2. I mean, you can think of it as a separate point, but I'll just put it, for me, I'll just put it here, right? So, okay, she had a dream, but that dream was not realized, right? So, I mean, that's different from envy, right? Is that the same thing as envy? If you envy something, does that mean your dream did not come true? If you have a dream, if your dream doesn't come true, does that mean you envy people? No. It's, okay, so it's different. Right? Dream did not come true. She wondered at her own solitude these 2 years past, her indifference to the fact that she had never achieved what she had expected. Okay, so it's going along this, right? So she had an expectation. So again, I mean, if we have the word expect here, what do you think it's going to be? If we have an expect, what is this? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Her expectation versus reality. She never achieved is a reality. but her expectations were above it, right? Okay, so that, right? Why aren't you writing this down? The play was one of those drawing room concoctions. Okay, do you know what this is? If you say you do know, then you're taking the wrong approach. Don't make any guesses, okay? So we've learned about this, right? Skins and horses, remember that? Skins and horses. Yogurt sweets. Yogurt sweets like diamonds, right? What else was there? I mean, there were okay, brother, right? He was like a brother. He long ceased to be a brother to me. Like, what does that statement mean? I don't know. Don't make any unwarranted inferences. What's a DRC? I don't know. Okay? Don't make any inferences. So I'm just going to say whatever this is, okay? I'm going to find out at the point after this. What's the drawing room concoction? Okay, so let's take a look. Charmingly overdressed ladies and gentlemen suffer the pangs of love and jealousy. Okay? What's that like? Like a Korean drama? I guess. Overdressed ladies and gentlemen, they suffer love and jealousy, right? So you could think, okay, it's like a Korean drama, right? Everyone has perfect hair, right? Everyone, I mean, there's like a, I don't know, it's like a millionaire and a broke person, but they both have perfect hair and perfect skin. Well, it's like this, right? What does gild mean? Yeah. Yeah, painted with gold. Okay. So, amid gilded surroundings. This just means rich surroundings, right? Rich. Right? So they suffer love and jealousy. They're thinking about, they're having their love problems, they're having their I don't know, personal dramas, but amid really rich settings, right? And then it says, such banmats. Okay, so what, okay, you don't know what banmats are, but you know that this is a compressive noun. So what do these banmats refer to? This is a plural noun. What does it refer to? What does this refer to? So this is a plural noun. What does it refer to? Does it refer to gilded surroundings? What does this refer to, guys? Yes. Why? Well, I don't know. Take a look at the sentence. The play was, okay, so it says the subject was DRCs. And then in the next sentence, it says plural nouns are, right? It's like this. Do you see this? The play was one of those drawing room concoctions. And it's all modifying drawing room concoctions. And then here, we have a plural noun, and it's saying are this. I mean, it needs to be this. I mean, we only have be verbs here, right? So it should be that. It shouldn't be something else. So still, we're referring to these. Such banmats are ever enticing. What does it mean, enticing? What does it mean, enticing? Yeah. I mean, okay, so if something looks enticing, it means, okay, I want to do that, or I want that. That looks good. That's what enticing is. So DRCs are enticing to these people, right? Okay, so I don't know who these people are, but what we're gonna do is, there are those. Okay, so I don't know who those are yet, but these people look at DRCs, right? So what are DRCs? For the characterization for DRCs are what? It's like a K-drama. Okay, so I'll just say K-drama. Okay? So they look at these and they say it's enticing, right? They like it. But who are these people? Those who have all their days longed for such material surroundings and never had them gratified. Okay, so there are those people who wanted this but did not have this, right? Again, you can see this as a kind of expectation versus reality, right? I mean, it's not necessarily their expectation, but it's something that they want but they don't have, right? So they want this but they don't have it. So they want MS but don't have it. Okay? They have the charm of showing suffering under ideal conditions. Okay, so what do they refer to here? What do they refer to? No.
Those who have longer days.
Nope.
Materials around.
Nope. Yeah? Yes. Okay, so we guessed at every plural noun possible and we finally got at the answer. Why is this the case? I don't know. I don't know. It's just the way it is. But if you just look at the sentence structure here, it's all the main sentence structure, that's all talking about DRCs, right? The play was a DRC. The DRCs are these. The DRCs are enticing. The DRCs have the charm of showing suffering under ideal conditions. It's all that, right? It's all just characterizing the DRCs here, right? Okay, so the DRCs have the charm of showing suffering under ideal conditions, right? So this is what, okay, so I'm going to characterize this a little bit more, right? So you show suffering, but it's actually in under ideal conditions, right? So you're thinking about love, you're suffering because of love and everything, but you do that in your rich house, right? Like your luxurious house. You're in a mansion and you're just thinking about love, right? That's what it's talking about. And then it says, okay, so I mean, if you didn't get the hint here, if you take a look at the next sentence, so this is how you should have logically approached it. If you think, okay, so this is why you got lost, okay? Pronouns are the reason that you got lost here in this passage. If you did get lost, if you got the questions wrong, if you failed to figure out the main idea, if you got lost in the middle, it's because of the pronouns. You never really asked yourself what these pronouns are. You just kind of went with your feel. You're not approaching it logically. Okay? I mean, we talked about it a million times. When there's a pronoun, just always ask yourself what it is. And think about it logically, okay? So if you think these are, material surroundings, okay, I mean, I don't know. Just pretend like that's the case. I mean, and then just read the next sentence. Or if you don't know what it is, Okay, do not make up your mind when you're reading this sentence, and actually just try to supplement your understanding with the next sentences. Okay, so what do the next sentences say? Who would not grieve upon a gilded chair? Right? Okay, like, is this the author speaking, by the way? Okay, so this is not the author speaking, by the way. Well, it is the author. It is the narrator, but it's the narrator speaking on behalf of this character. Okay? When describing certain characters, okay, when the author is describing a character, when the author is inside another character's head, the author sometimes talks like this, right? As if it's his or her own thoughts, as if it's the narrator's own thoughts. But it's not actually the narrator's own thoughts. It's the character's thoughts, right? So these are the character's thoughts. Who would not grieve upon a gilded chair? Who would not suffer amid perfumed tapestries, cushioned furniture, and liveried servants, right? So this is what Carrie thought. So Carrie's like, oh, I want to do that, right? We saw that envy a little bit while ago, right? So she envied these people, and she looked at these surroundings, she looked at these conditions, and she said, yeah, who wouldn't want that? I would want to do that, right? Okay, so I didn't talk about the really obvious thing though, because I thought, all of you guys got it, right? So what's happening? She's watching a play, right? Carrie's watching a play. So Carrie's watching a play, and then the play was one of those K-dramas, and she was watching it, and she was like, okay, yeah, I kind of want to live like that, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the next part. Grief under such circumstances becomes an enticing. I'm actually just going to erase this because, these are the expanded versions of the first idea, so I just erased it. But anyway, grief under such circumstances becomes an enticing thing, right? Yeah. So, what do such circumstances refer to? What kind of conditions did we talk about so far? What are the conditions that we talked about? Yeah.
Luxurious conditions.
Yes. The really rich surroundings, right? So such circumstances becomes an enticing thing, right? Grief under such circumstances, right? So if you're well off, right, and you're just thinking about love all the time, that's kind of an enticing thing, right? That's what it's saying. Carrie longed to be of it. Okay, so this is what Carrie thought. It's not surprising. It's what we've been talking about the entire time. She wanted to take her sufferings, whatever they were, in such a world, or failing that, at least to simulate them under such charming conditions upon the stage, right? So, she wanted this so bad that even if she didn't really have this in real life, she wanted to actually just simulate it on stage. That at least she wanted that, right? She wanted it that bad, right? So affected was her mind by what she had seen that the play now seemed an extraordinarily beautiful thing, right? So, this again is not new information, but I guess if you want to be pretty meticulous about this, you can do this, right? So she, looking at the play, thought it was a beautiful thing, right? She was soon lost in the world it represented and wished that she might never return. Okay, so again, we just found the point of repetition, and now you should just kind of go through all the information. Between the acts, she studied the galaxy of matinee audiences. Okay, so what about this? This is actually talking about something physical that happened, right? We haven't talked about this the entire time. Like up till this point, it's all been characterization. It's all been what Carrie thought, what the play was, that kind of thing. But this, what is this? She studied the galaxy of matinee attendants in front rows, right? Okay, so I guess this is what she did, right? So this is kind of like the first thing that she did, aside from the fact that we know she's watching the play and whatnot. What's a matinee? You guys never been to the theaters? The movie theaters? I'm not talking about these theaters. I'm talking about movie theaters. I mean, if you go to movie theaters, they have matinee written all over them. What does matinee mean? Really? You guys don't, you don't know what it is? Really? No, I'm pretty sure, actually, I don't know. Perhaps maybe they all changed it to early bird. I mean, you know, usually they say matinee. What's this in Korean? Wait, 조조? Do you guys know 조조? Don't even know. Okay, don't. What? Okay, so you know how, okay, I don't know if you guys know about this, but if you go to the theater early, you get cheaper tickets. Did you know about that? Like in Korea though, I think it needs to be before noon, right? But in the States, it's usually before like 5 p.m. If you go before 5 p.m., or I think it's in some places like 4, something like that. If you go before dinner, it's a matinee show. Okay? So it's like a really early show, right? Yes? But, okay, so why is it talking about matinee attendance? Okay, so I guess she went to a matinee show, but she's looking at the matinee attendance, and these people are in front rows and boxes, right? So think about that. If you have to work, would you go to a matinee show? No, probably you can't. But so that means you don't work, right? But you're sitting in a front row. Okay, so this is actually a theater. It's not just a movie theater. They're watching a play, right? If you want to sit in the front row, or if you want to sit in the box, you guys know what a box is? You know, like if you watch a movie and if you go to the theater, they have those private boxes that you can watch it in without mingling with the low life, poor other people. Those are the boxes. Okay, so these people, they don't work, they're rich, right? You see? Right? That's I guess what it's trying to say, right? So she's looking at these people. So probably, I mean, she said in the beginning that it's usually like it was women, right? So she's looking at all these like really rich women, and she's just and then what does she say? And conceived a new idea of the possibilities of New York, right? So she saw these people and it's like, oh, you know, what are the possibilities, right? Maybe I can be like that too, right? I mean, that I'm inferring. That really you shouldn't do. But that's what it's saying, right? She was sure she had not seen it all, that the city was one world of pleasure and delight. Oh, okay. So it's not necessarily that she can become one of them. It's just like the city itself, right? Pleasure and delight. That's what you should get out of it, right? So she saw the matinee attendance. She was affected by that. She thought about the possibilities of New York. And then it says going out. Okay, so going out. Now I guess she's leaving the theater, right? She's leaving the theater. The same Broadway. Okay, so what is it? What does it mean, Broadway? What are we talking about here? So some people say, oh, the Broadway show, like, yeah, I heard about this a lot, like the Broadway show. So is it saying the same show taught her a sharper lesson? Is that what it's talking about? Okay, I mean, if you don't know, I guess read the next sentence. What does it say? The scene she had witnessed coming down was now augmented and at its height. Okay, so I don't know what this scene was, but this scene, what was at its height, was at its peak, right? And then what does it say? Such a crush of finer and folly she had never seen. It clinched her convictions concerning her state. She had not lived, could not Lady Clementine live until until something of this had come into her own life. But I still don't know. Like up till this point, I don't know what it is. She's just like, oh, I really want this. I want this. It's not living until I experience these. And then what does it say? Women were spending money like water. Okay. So here you should have gotten that hint that she left the theater, right? She left the theater and she's walking outside, right? And what does it say? So this Broadway, it literally means the street, right? Why does it say the same Broadway then? I don't know. Because when she was going in the theater, I guess. I mean, it didn't. Our passage just started in the middle, right? We already start from the point when she's in the theater, but probably before this, it mentioned her entering the theater, going through that Broadway, right? So I guess that's why it says the same Broadway, right? So, I mean, Broadway is still the same, right? Before and after the play, it's still the same place, but now it's a sharper lesson for him. She's taking it in differently. She's perceiving the streets differently compared to when she was entering the theater. You see what I mean? Right? So it had a different effect on her because her perceptions just changed because of the play, right? Okay, so what was happening? So women spending money, she could see that in every elegant shop she passed. Flowers, candy, jewelry seemed the principal things in which the elegant dames, dame meaning like a young woman, were interested. And she had scarcely enough pin money to indulge in such outings as this a few times a month. Okay, so here I see this contrast. So you can do this, right? So this and this, it's in a contrast relationship here, right? So what were these people doing? They're spending a lot of money. And what about her? She really didn't have enough money. Like she couldn't really do this a lot of times, maybe just a few times a month, right? Maybe she can do this. That night, the pretty little flat seemed a commonplace thing. Okay. That night, the pretty little flat. Okay, so it says the pretty little flat. So I guess you need to take this in with a little bit of flexibility. Why? Because again, like I said, it's similar to the same Broadway, right? We don't know that the Broadway was mentioned before, but we can kind of infer, okay, so this is what the story's been talking about. But same here. It says the pretty little flat, right? So I guess, we didn't read that part, but before our passage started, I guess there was a point discussing like, okay, so she got her new place, right? She went in there and she was like, oh, it's my pretty little flat, right? It's pretty good, right? But now how does she feel? Now she's like, that night the pretty little flat seemed a commonplace thing, right? Why is it a commonplace thing? Because her perceptions, it all changed. Her expectations changed after the play. Do you see this? So this passage itself is a huge before and after, right? This passage itself is about that change. Is about her watching the play, right? And what used to be a pretty little flat now seems a really commonplace thing. It's not that, it's just something that she takes for granted now. She's just like, that's just normal. It says, it was not what the rest of the world was enjoying. She saw the servant working at a dinner with an indifferent eye. Okay, so, if you just read this sentence, she saw the servant. Okay, let's just take this sentence out of context, Like completely out of context. Let's see what happens. She saw the servant working at dinner with an indifferent eye. Okay, so you can infer a lot of different things using this sentence if you just take it out of context. What can you think? You can think, oh, she's not a nice person. She's not courteous to others, right? I mean, you can possibly think that, but you don't want to do that. Why? Because this whole thing is just serving this characterization, right? Her perception just changed, right? Well, what was her perception change? Her expectations were infinitely higher now, right? Now she's seen all that rich and folly, and now she's like, okay, that's what I want. It's really not living until I experience all of those, right? Okay, so it says, in her mind, we're running scenes of the play. So she's still thinking about the play. Particularly, she remembered one beautiful actress, okay? The sweetheart who had been wooed and won. The grace of this woman had won Carrie's heart. Okay, so we have this, right? Carrie's opinion of the actress, right? What is this? She really liked her, right? Had won Carrie's heart. Her dresses had been all that art could suggest. I don't know why I underlined suggest. All that art could suggest, right? So I guess good dresses, right? Good dress. Her sufferings had been so real. Okay, so I guess good acting, right? Good dress, good acting. The anguish which she had portrayed, Carrie could feel, right? And she could sympathize with her. It was done as she was sure she could do it. What about this? It was done as she was sure she could do it. Well, who's this she, first of all? So you should be a little bit confused here. Why? Because this could potentially be, okay, so in literature passages, the pronouns are used a little bit more flexibly, and that's where the point of confusion can kick in. This can potentially refer to Carrie, but it could also potentially refer to the actress, right? So think about both possibilities then, right? What does it say? There were places in which she could even do better. Oh, okay, so here's a comparison, right? So I guess it's not about the actress, right? This is Carrie, right? It was done as Carrie was sure she could do it. Carrie could do it, right? So she saw the actress and she's like, okay, I can do that too, right? And then there were places in which she could even do better than the actress, right? Oh, that's really nothing. I can even do better than her. I can act better. Hence, she repeated the lines to herself. Okay, so now she's just kind of like, okay, maybe, I mean, I don't know if she's, okay, you shouldn't do this. I'm not going to say she wanted to become an actress now, but she's just like playing, I guess. I mean, she's repeating their lines. Oh, if she could only have such a part, how broad would be her life? Okay, so it's kind of just daydreaming here now, saying like, okay, maybe, what if I could become an actress? She too could act appealingly. I could do that too. So she'll just start just kind of daydreaming at the end. Okay, so let's talk about the passage. Okay, so I'm not gonna look at this, right? I'm not gonna look at this. So we start off and we're in the play from the very beginning, right? So and then like in the beginning it says it was not so often that she came to the play stirred to her heart's core or whatever, right? So anyway, she was moved, right? She was moved, and then what was the thing? It was about like rich people, right? The play was about rich people, and then the narrator comments, okay, so the play was one of these, right? The play was one of the DRCs, and then the narrator explains it to us, right? And then after the show, she's coming out, and then now her perception changed, right? She's seeing all these people spending money, and she's like, well, they clearly have more money than me. I can't really afford this. And then she goes back to her place, and then her place now just seems like a really common place. She really liked the place, I guess, a little bit before, but now that she's seen the show, her perception completely changed. And then after that, she remembers about that actress, and she says, maybe I could do better than her. But remember in the middle, there was also that weird characterization about her dreams not being realized, right? So we don't know what kind of dream she had, but she did have a dream, right? Carrie did have a dream, but it was not realized, okay? So they could potentially ask about all of these. Okay, so let's take a look here. So some people chose A here, right? Explaining how Carrie is similar to a character she sees in a play. And no, you're wrong, okay? Okay, why don't you guys close your eyes? I just want to check. Who chose A? Who chose B? C? D? Okay, I'll open your eyes. All right, so yeah. Think about this, all right? So what did it say? I mean, so this is a comparison, right? How Carrie is similar to a character she sees in a play, right? So what is this saying? This is saying Carrie equals the actress, right? It's saying they're not different. It's not talking about a difference. It's talking about a similarity. Do you see a similarity in the passage? No, right? If anything, there was a part where it says, you know, Carrie felt like she could do better than the actress, right? But we don't have that similarity. So you should be able to get rid of this right away. What about B? Developing a contrast between how Carrie perceives herself and how she is perceived by others. All right, so what is this? Okay, so if you chose this, you need to think about this. How others perceive Carrie. How Carrie perceives Carrie. Contrast. That's what B is saying. If you saw this, okay? I mean, if you chose this, you better have annotated this in the passage. Okay? I mean, if you didn't annotate this and if you're choosing B, you're making a very illogical choice. Okay? And if you did annotate this in the passage, you're wrong. There is no such thing like this in the passage. There's no other's perception about Carrie, right? What about C? Comparing Carrie's actual appearance. Okay, so this is real. To her perceptions of her appearance. Okay, so this is what is this? Appearance versus essence, right? What she appeared like and what she was actually like. Again, we didn't have this, right? If we had that appearance versus essence, we would have annotated this. Juxtaposing Carrie's, okay, we talked about this when we were talking about the essay, right? Juxtaposing means what? Yeah. Yeah, putting something next to something, right? So we juxtapose, okay, so this can be, note that this can be used in a pretty loose sense, right? So putting next to Carrie's perceptions of the city. Yeah, we did talk about New York a lot, right? So how does she feel about New York? She looked at New York and she was like, oh, the possibilities, right? And oh, the people using money, right? You know, that kind of thing. And her impressions at the theater. Yeah, of course, right? So this came first, and then after going out, right? The same Broadway, right, taught her a sharper lesson. So starting from that point, it would be the perception of the city. So D would be the right answer. Okay. So some people. Okay. Well, why don't you guys close your eyes? Close your eyes. Who chose A, B, C, D? Who chose D? Okay, close your eyes, guys. A, B, C, D. Okay, open your eyes. Okay, the reason why I'm doing the close your eyes thing is if I don't do it, you guys don't raise your hands. Okay. All right, so let's think about, okay, let's go one by one, okay? So A says natural talent will languish. What does languish mean? I mean, if you don't know, it's fine. I think you'll get it. I mean, do you think do you think the sentence is saying natural talent will improve if it remains unnourished? That doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, even if you don't know what this means, you would guess that it's going to be this, decrease, right? Languish means what? Like made weak, right? It will become weaker, right? Natural talent will go away or decrease if it remains unnourished. Did we talk about talent? Did we talk about it being unnourished? So if this were to be the answer, you need number one, talent, and it needs to be unnourished, and it needs to be languished. You need like those three elements, which are, of course, none of them are mentioned at all, actually, if you think about it, right? So A is not the answer. Okay, so if you had a trouble with this, you can come ask me, and you can, because I don't know exactly why you thought this was the answer. I don't know your exact reasoning, but anyway. Okay, so what about B? Imagined pleasures. Imagined pleasures. What could this be? I mean, it was her watching the play, so I guess that could qualify as an imagined pleasure if we wanted to, right? Imagined pleasures have the power to make everyday life seem unacceptable. So I would say unacceptable is a pretty strong word. So I would kind of stop here. What about C? No goal is unfeasible. Okay, so you lost me right there. You lost me right there. If you want to say no goal is unfeasible as a lesson, the story should deal with the story that in which a character attains something. That's the only way you can say no goal is unfeasible. If you didn't achieve anything, you can't say it's unfeasible. You know what I mean? But we didn't see anything achieved in the passage. How could you say no goal is unfeasible? You need to at least make it feasible to say no goal is unfeasible. You know what I mean? But we didn't see that. Relationships, okay, gone. Irrelevant. We don't have any kind of relationship, right, in the passage. Any person-to-person relationship, interpersonal relationship, no, there's none of them. So the only possible answer is B. Although unacceptable might seem a little bit strong, right? But all the other answer choices, it's just too much, right? Okay, so this is A, right? Moved. So she was just moved in the very beginning. Okay, so this question destroyed people, right? And I guess, I mean, yeah, these are the final questions. I mean, these are the hardest questions, right? Talked about this, right? Purpose question. Okay, so do you need to know what knickknacks and concoctions mean? Not necessarily. Okay, so let's actually just pretend like we have no idea what knickknacks and concoctions mean. Okay, so we'll just say it's K and C, right? So what effect do K and C have? And it's saying it's the effect, right? So the effect would be the author's goal, right? The writer's goal, the narrator's goal. You know what I mean, right? This is what we do in the essay section, right? So this is the ultimate goal, the potential goal that the author has. So doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of word it is. Just imagine these are the potential goals of the narrator or of the writer. Okay? So this needs to go along with what he or she, the narrator's been saying, right? So let's take a look. They underscore the widespread popularity of the things being described. Okay? So did we ever talk about something being popular? No. Although we did say in the passage, these bon mots, such bon mots are ever enticing to those people, right? A specific group of people, but we don't know how large of a group they are, first of all. So, I mean, we can't really say the author's goal is to talk about the widespread popularity. It's kind of doubtful, right? What about B? They provide insight into the causes underlying Carrie's materialistic mindset. Here, why don't you guys close your eyes for a bit? Okay, who chose A, B, C, D? Okay, good. All right, so kind of spread evenly here. Okay, you guys can open your eyes. Let's take a look at B. Provide insight into the causes underlying Carrie's materialistic mindset. Okay, so what this means is this. If you just see this word, you know why. You know why Carrie is being materialistic. Just looking at these two words, you're just like, I know why. I know why Carrie's materialistic now. That's like 궁예, right? You guys know? Do you guys know who 궁예 is? 궁예? Do you guys know what this is? 궁예질? Okay, so there was this popular television character like back in the day. Like I don't think I was in Korea back then, but anyway, like there was this he's actually based on a real character, right? From 고려시대? Right? From 고려시대. You guys know 고려시대, right? So he was this actual person, but like towards the end of his life, he just went mad. Like he was a legit madman, and he was killing people based on his assumptions. Like he would just look at people and he would say, okay, I'm looking through your mind right now, right? I'm looking through your mind right now, and I think you're trying to kill me. And then he would kill that person, right? So if you make wild assumptions about people, and if you make wild speculations and guesses about people, people in Korea say, I don't think they say it nowadays, but like people my age or older, they say like, oh, 궁예질 하지 마, right? Don't make any guesses about a person. That's what this is. Like, how would you know? Just looking at these two words, you would know the causes of her materialistic mindset. Like, do you know, like, just looking at these two words, okay, now I know what kind of childhood she had, right? Now I just know. I mean, it's ridiculous. These two words cannot carry that much connotation, regardless of their meaning. It's impossible. You can't know that, right? What about C? They emphasize how little value Carrie actually attaches to the thing she appears to covet. What is this? Appearance versus reality, right? Do you think Carrie actually did not care about these things? She genuinely cared about these things. That was this passage, right? It's not like she was like, I don't know what I want. That's what C's saying, right? Carrie's the kind of girl that she doesn't know what she wants, right? She appears to want it, but actually she attaches little value to it. There was no such characterization. This is coming from your mind also, right? What about this? D. They suggest that the things Carrie is observing ought to be regarded as trivial. Okay, so ought to be regarded as trivial. All right, so let's just pretend this then. Let's just pretend these two words have very negative connotations, right? If they have negative connotations, D can work. Why? Because these are the words that the narrator chooses, right? So the narrator says, it was one of those drawing room concoctions, and the narrator's describing it, right? But she's saying, these things are enticing to these people, right? So the narrator's saying, like, these things, they're kind of trivial, but there's a lot of people who like it, and say, for instance, Carrie, right? So the narrator is kind of distancing himself from the people who like this. If you think about it that way, it can work. Okay, so what's a concoction? Okay, so it can have two meanings. Okay, so if you like a mixture of something, that could be a concoction, or, I mean, the second meaning is kind of going off of the first meaning. I mean, it just kind of evolved that way. So if you like mix drinks and whatever, like you blah blah blah, it's like a concoction. Like you mix it, but it could also mean something that's made up, right? Something. It's so, you know, in this case, drawing room concoction. Yeah, it's something that, you know, it's just one of those things that are just made up in the drawing room. They just brainstormed and made the story, right? What about knick-knack? What does knick-knack mean?
Is it pants?
Hmm?
Pants.
Pet?
Pants.
Pants? Okay, so in Korean, it means this. 잡동사니. Meaning, like really trivial things, right? Just, you know, small gadgets and whatever. Like, you know, it's just like, you know, really not something so important, just like a really little something, you know? It could be anything, right? But that's what it is, right? So she's saying, you know, these trivial things and, you know, this made up thing, it can look enticing to a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that was the hard question. That was the hard question. And for number 7, so this one was kind of weird. So you needed to look at the line reference and come back to this, because if you just start reading here, you're in pretty unfamiliar territory, because not been conducive to helping her achieve her ambition. So you did see a little bit about this, right? Her not being able to achieve her dreams. You should remember, ideally, you should remember yourself remembering that. I mean, no. You should remember that in the passage, right? Her not being able to attain her dreams. Yeah. Follow the repetitive but productive pattern. So this, you should have judged, okay, this is totally irrelevant, right? I mean, we don't know what her day is like. It's not mentioned. It's just not mentioned. Allowed for interaction with the range of interesting people. Okay. Did we talk about her interaction with anybody? I mean, she watched these people, but interaction means interaction, going back and forth. Where was that? I don't see that anywhere in the passage. So again, this is irrelevant. D, facilitated her goals as an actress. We don't know if she had a goal as an actress. At the end, yeah, okay, so she was kind of imitating the actress. She was reading the lines or whatever. But does that mean she wants to be an actress? Just because you guys go to 노래방, does that mean you want to be a singer? No, right? So not this. It's probably this. So the answer that you need to choose for the line reference question should be about this, right? About her not being able to achieve her dreams, which would be A here, right? Her indifference to the fact that she had never achieved what she had expected. This part, right? She did not achieve what she expected or what she wanted, what she dreamed of. Okay. Okay, I think, you know, like, so this passage, the passage itself was on the harder side. But I say that reluctantly because it's not supposed to be. It's a lot of points of repetitions. So it's not supposed to, but a lot of people get lost here. And especially this question, a lot of people get wrong, okay? But you should get used to this reasoning, right? It's going to show up all the time. And the hardest questions are always going to be purpose questions. That's why you need to, that's why you need to go in the mind of like you need to be in a writer's mindset. We talked about this when we were talking about the essay, right? You should always think about, okay, so what's the author trying to do? What's his end goal? What's his or her objective in using this word, kind of thing, right? That's not in the passage. Okay, so anyway, this was the killer question here. So we're gonna come back to the writing section after the break. So go over the writing section during break and think about all the questions that you want to ask, okay? So I'm not, again, you're gonna be biased because you already got your answer sheet. You're just like, oh, you know, I could have gotten it right. But again, you can't. If you could have, you would have, but you didn't. So you couldn't have. Right? So, okay, let's just take like a 10-minute break and then we'll come back, take a look at the writing section, okay? Tell me the question numbers.
11.
Huh? 3. That's it? Again, I forgot I forgot to do this for this test again. I shouldn't have told you guys the answers. You guys know all the answers. You got all the answer sheets. So that's not ideal. Before you look at the answer sheet, you should do a blind review of the test. You should solve it using a blue pen again, and you know that you should do that. Anyway, so let's take a look at number 3. It says the main idea of the paragraph. So you need to read the entire paragraph. So if you only read up till here, you will get it wrong. You will get it wrong. Answer the question. It's not about your opinion about what's going to be best here. So usually what happens, again, we talked about this, which of the following best sets up the information that follows, or best transition, or main idea of the paragraph, whatever that is. A lot of people just act like this question's not here, okay? So this might sound stupid, but even people who get like less than 3 wrong. So if you get like -2, -1, like if you're in this range, you still do this sometimes. Why do you do that? Like, what do I mean? Because 2 of the answer choices are just going to be completely irrelevant. For the harder questions, 2 answer choices are going to be irrelevant, but 2 of the answer choices are going to be relevant. I'm not saying these 2 are relevant, but just saying, for example, 2 answer choices are going to be relevant. And then what happens is you don't necessarily answer this question. You just go with your opinion of what's best suit here, like what best fits here, like that. You shouldn't do that. You should answer the question. So main idea of the paragraph, so you need to read the entire thing. Okay, so let's take a look starting from here. You shouldn't read this, right? You shouldn't read this. Land formerly used for garbage is usually inexpensive to buy. Okay, so land, inexpensive, right? Okay, so I know that this whole thing is modified by this, but anyway, first idea, inexpensive, and then it says it is also blank. Let's solve this while we're at it. What is this? This is a colon. We all have colons here. So what happens after a colon? Meaning-wise, what is it? What happens? I'm not talking about grammar. Meaning-wise, what follows a colon? Yeah. Yeah, it elaborates the points made here. So this adjective, whatever this adjective is going to be illustrated here, right? So what does it say? The EPA estimates that the United States has at least 10,000. So 10,000, so I'm thinking about this and I go with abundant, right? 10,000 is an elaboration on how abundant it is, right? What does magnanimous mean? What? What was that? No, it means forgiving. Especially if you're like a winner, like in a competition or something like that. You're forgiving towards the loser, like in a war or whatever, right? You have a forgiving attitude towards the losers. That's what magnanimous is. It's not excessive because this has a negative connotation into it, but we don't need that negative connotation. What about A? Prolific. What does prolific mean? So yeah, it could be producing a lot. It could mean you're really competent. If you're a prolific writer, right? You're really skilled, that kind of thing. No, so it's going to be abundant here. Anyway, so it says it's inexpensive, and then we have a lot, right? Inexpensive, we have a lot, and then what about the next part? By restoring the landscape, these parks also hold tremendous benefits. Okay, so it says tremendous benefits, and then I guess, okay, so we have a semicolon, because they transform blah, blah, blah. They have the added benefits. Recent paper, not going to read this. Why? So it's the recent paper is going to elaborate on that benefit, right? And then it says exercise and these have all been linked to improved health, right? So, and then it talks about the report. So we're talking about a lot of benefits. We're talking about benefits. We talked about it being inexpensive. We talked about it being abundant. So what am I going to do? Okay, so that should be my focus, right? Inexpensive, abundant, benefit. Inexpensive, abundant, benefit. So now I'm looking at this. There's no official count of the number of parks, but it could be as many as 1,000. Okay, so how would that account for benefits? This does not account for that idea at all. So of course A is not going to be the answer, right? Because, well, what about benefits? How are you going to tie that into the benefits? For many environmental and logistical reasons, not all landfills can be repurposed as parks. Well, what? How does that account for benefits or inexpensive or anything? Reclaiming landfills for park space offers multiple advantages. There we go. Okay, so we can say advantages: inexpensive, abundant, and then we have a lot of benefits. So this is okay. Americans generated, okay, way too specific. I don't want to see any numbers here. So C is the right answer here. As you guys already know. Let's take a look at A. If you don't have the answers, we'll give it to you after class, by the way. Let's take a look here. Which version of the underlined portion provides the most relevant examples for the sentence? Okay, so now this is the complete opposite. No, well, not the complete opposite, but we're just looking at this sentence. We're not looking at other parts to guess. So don't look here. Don't look here to guess about this. It's asking about this sentence. So let's take a look here. The park offers many recreational opportunities. So I need to talk about the recreational opportunities. Okay. So A says these occur on what? It's not talking about recreational activities. What about B? Such as horseback riding, nature trails. Yeah, this could be recreational activities. What about C? The park's wetlands include coastal, does not talk about recreational. So if you didn't know what recreational means, I guess you could potentially get it wrong. But what does recreational mean? Recreational, what does that mean? Yes, entertainment or something for fun, right? So B is the right answer. 11. Okay, so turning the blank problem into an advantage. Okay, so it's kind of rephrasing. So it might seem like just a simple vocabulary and context question, and it is. But you know, you need to kind of think about this whole thing, right? Because it's a compressive noun. You see this? The blank problem, right? So it's obviously rephrasing some problem that's been mentioned before, right? So let's take a look here. Process of converting landfills into parks presents some challenges, but they are surmountable. What does surmount mean? Surmountable means conquerable. Like we can get over it. Insurmountable means you can't get over it. You can't go over it. So this passage, the following part's probably going to be talking about surmountable challenges, right? Okay, so it says when buried waste decomposes, it releases flammable gases such as blah blah blah, causing a health hazard. While landfills are inexpensive to purchase, maintenance costs can be high. technological advances allow park designers to address both concerns. And then we're turning these problems into an advantage, right? Okay, I just kind of stopped there. But okay, so let's just take a look. Okay, so it says disgusting. Okay, so I mean, it's not. I mean, if you argue hard for this, I would say okay, but it's a little bit informal if you think about it. Disgusting. I mean, you know, this passage was pretty scientific in its nature, so it has a very formal tone to it. You wouldn't necessarily say disgusting. And second of all, how do you know that it's dirty? Right? I mean, okay, disgusting means bleh, that kind of thing. But you know, these gases, okay, like it's rather more poisonous, noxious than disgusting. You know what I mean? Like these three answer choices kind of go hand in hand with each other. They're all talking about, okay, disgusting, gross, foul, but it's not necessarily about this. So you should be focusing more on the hazard and you should move to this. Okay, so starting from 12 to 22. Yeah. 17. Yeah. 18. Yeah. 21. 14. Let's take a look at 14. Which choice provides a quotation from Conan Doyle that best sets up the information that follows in the paragraph? Right? Paragraph, not just the following part, but the paragraph. So you need to read a little bit more, right? If you found a point of repetition, you could stop there. But let's start reading from here, right? Devising the intricate plots of the stories took a great deal of time and effort, right? Okay, so him devising the story itself, time and effort, and he wanted to dedicate his energies elsewhere, right? Okay, so you see this conflict, right? So you see it took a lot of time for him, but he wanted to do something else. That's the first idea, and then it says, believing the home stories to be lowbrow work. Okay, so what does lowbrow mean? What does lowbrow mean? Yeah, never heard of lowbrow or highbrow? Really? Okay. What's your favorite movie? Midway. What's your favorite movie? Okay. Suena, what's your favorite movie? Huh? What? Alien? Okay, that was kind of unexpected. What's your favorite movie? Singing in the Rain. What's Unjia, what's your favorite movie? 신과 함께. Okay. So, what's a good example of a lowbrow movie? I don't know. I mean, it's all relative, but I would say, okay, so let's say, for example, what's like a recent Korean movie? I know there hasn't been any Korean movies coming out lately, but okay. Well, 기생충. Who's seen this? Isn't it rated R? Why did you guys watch it? Huh? Do your parents know you watched it? It's rated R. You shouldn't be watching it. It is rated R, right?
No, I watched it.
Oh, okay. Then it's 15세, I guess. Huh. That's kind of weird. This shouldn't be 15세. I feel like it should be 18세. But anyway, okay. So 기생충, I would say it's a pretty highbrow movie. Why? Because anything that goes to like foreign film festivals and wins awards, those are considered like highbrow movies. But what are some lowbrow movies? Like relatively speaking, it would be, I don't know, like really just small romantic comedy movies. Like just like a really typical romantic comedy that will be relatively more lowbrow than 기생충. And movies are lowbrow compared to novels, right? Literature is like more highbrow than movies, right? And like video games are like lowbrow compared to, I don't know, art or something like that, right? Like paintings. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like that's the difference. So he thought Holmes' stories was lowbrow work. It is a little bit lowbrow. Like any genre fiction is considered pretty lowbrow. But anyway, so he thought it was lowbrow, and then he wanted to do something else. Lucrative publishing contracts have made it difficult to walk away from the series, but made up his mind, so he wanted to end it. Right? Okay, so let's go back to 14. So sets up the information. So how was he feeling? So how was Conan Doyle feeling? So he thought it was lowbrow. He thought it took too much time, and he wanted to do something else, right? Okay, so let's take a look. A says, I am weary of his name. So weary means what? We went over this, yeah. Tired, right? We did this. Weary versus wary, right? You guys remember this? What does wary mean? Careful, you're more aware of something, right? So it means he's tired of Holmes. He's tired of Holmes, right? Was he tired of Holmes? I mean, if you just read A, it might seem like this is an okay answer choice because it has that negative connotation that he does not want anything to do with the story anymore, a little bit. It might seem like that when you're reading A. It's okay, but you need to finish reading all the answer choices. So you should kind of be like, okay, maybe. It was still the Sherlock Holmes stories for which the public clamored. So it's not necessarily about this. It's about his internal conflict, right? He didn't want to do this kind of thing, right? See, he takes my mind from better things. Yeah. So this sets up information pretty good, right? So he thinks there are better things. This is relatively more lowbrow work, and it took way too much time for him. I was amazed at the concern. No. So it's either A or C. But if you now think about this, did he have personal feelings towards Holmes? Did he really say, I'm tired of Holmes? No, it's not. I'm tired of Holmes, wanted to do something else. Sounds better here because based on what follows, right? He wanted to use his energies elsewhere. So C is the right answer. And then 17. Introduces the topic of this paragraph. So again, we're going to read this paragraph, right? So starting from here. Making headlines around the world, the death of such a beloved character spurred a public outcry. Right? So people weren't happy. Author received an abundance of angry letters. Okay, so this is just elaborating on public outcry, right? The angry letters. And they were not enough to change this. Yeah, okay. It is even said that Londoners donned blah, 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 blah. So they even did this, right? They even did this. So it's still talking about the public outcry, right? People really didn't want this to happen. Conan Doyle's decision was a serious blow not only to the public, but also to the magazine. And people, stranded editors panicked as 20,000 people canceled their subscriptions. Right, so it's talking about the backlash of him, what is it? Him killing off that guy Holmes, right? So if you take a look at young readers, so as soon as I see young readers, I'm going to get rid of this. I don't see anywhere young readers. B, the periodicals of the time played an important role. I don't even know what this is. This is an irrelevant idea mentioned. It had been only 18 months since the Strand published its first Holmes story. The magazine's success was already dependent on the detective. Okay, so this one does, I don't know, I mean, the magazine, this does kind of repeat. This is kind of a repeating information. But what about the first part, right? The author receiving an abundance of angry letters, you know? How is this going to include this idea? You know what I mean? Because this is talking exclusively about the magazine, but this statement has nothing to do with the magazine. So it doesn't set that up. What about D? While Conan Doyle was more than ready to part with the character, legions of fans were not. Okay, yeah. This would include all the information that follows, right? It would include the 20,000 people canceling their subscriptions. It would include the public outcry, letters petitioning, blah, blah, blah. It includes all of that. So D is the right answer. 18. Additional example, already in the sentence. So again, public outcry is the general point, right? Public outcry is the general point. What's example number 1? Abundance of angry letters. This is example number 1. And it's asking you to choose example number 2. That would best come here, right? So you would take these two things as a hint, as hints, right? So public outcry is the general point. Abundance of angry letters. Okay, so let's take a look. A says they were not enough to change his mind. So, okay, so although this sentence might fit, okay, so that's the trap. That's the trap, kind of. But that doesn't answer the question, because the question is asking you to choose an additional example. So you need to choose one that goes along the line of abundance of angry letters. What about B? Keep Homes Alive clubs formed. Okay, this one is okay, right? It's talking about the public outcry, right? People's reaction to it, negative reaction to it, abundance of angry letters, plus Keep Homes Alive club. So just this one I think is okay. Let's take a look at C. Those writing to him came from all parts of society. This seems like, okay, so I think this one is the most confusing answer choice. I'll talk about this a little bit later after I eliminate this one. He turned his attention to other. No, this of course is not an example. But think about this, all right? Public outcry. It's just talking about a public outcry. If you say, but C is kind of focusing on this. It came from all parts of society, right? It can come from all parts of society, but maybe, okay, so let's say okay, I don't wanna like categorize it or anything, but let's say there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of society, okay? Theoretically, let's say 5 parts of society. So one person from this part of society, one person from this part of society, one person from this, one person from here, one person from here. That's 5 people in total, right? You know what I mean? So let's say theoretically 5 people complained. Would that categorize as a public outcry? No, but that would qualify as this, right? So this one, that's why this is not the answer. I mean, coming from all parts of society doesn't necessarily talk about the scale of that. This one is talking about that, how big it was, how big the backlash was. But this one is just talking about the variety. It's not talking about the scale, right? Uh, 19. Okay, so combine sentence. Okay, so we did this a lot of times, right? But it's always good to do a new one. What do we need to do? First of all, just gonna read it, okay? Just get the meaning, and if the two sentences have any kind of relationship, I'm going to distill that relationship, okay? And then I want to see that exact relationship reflected here. And while you're reading the answer choices, you're looking for meaning changes. If there's a shift in meaning, so this is your Bible, right? This meaning shouldn't change whatsoever, right? So that meaning shouldn't change. And if one of the answer choices is if the answer is grammatically incorrect, it's automatically gone, right? Grammar, of course, you always need to look for. And then after you do that, if you have more than one answer choice, then you're going to be looking at concision. And the first thing of which is, what is that? Number of clauses. And then you're going to be thinking about pronoun repeats. And then passive versus active voice, right? Okay, so let's take a look here. So it says, it is even said that Londoners donned black armbands in solidarity, right? Okay, so this was kind of like their sign for, this is kind of them protesting, right? Them saying like, oh, we don't want homes to die, or them kind of mourning homes, right? So black armbands in solidarity, and then it says, such armbands are a traditional symbol of mourning. Okay, so this part is actually just kind of modifying the black armbands, right? So of course this is going to be a continuation. I don't want any answer choice that has a cause and effect or a contrast in it, right? That would be ridiculous. But I'm going to get rid of be right off the bat. Why? Because it has being in it, right? Being is never an answer. Okay, so just gonna get rid of this. So now let's take a look at A. A says such black armbands. I got rid of this right away. Why? Such armbands? Well, you didn't mention any armbands before, right? How could you say such black armbands if you didn't mention a black armband before, right? So got rid of A also. C, black armbands. Okay. And then it has a traditional symbol of mourning. So this is the second sentence used as a modifier, which it can, because I mean this whole thing, yeah, it's about the black armband. So you can do that in solidarity. Okay, and then we have this part. So this I feel like it's okay. What about this one? Traditionally symbolic black armbands. No. Okay, so this one is a wrong modifier. Why? Because traditionally symbolic is modifying black here, but I don't get it. Because a traditional symbol, it's not, it shouldn't be doing this, right? It's modifying the wrong thing, right? But, and also solidarity, no. Mourning. It's a symbol of mourning, but they didn't don the armbands in mourning. Right? They did it in solidarity, and this was a symbol of mourning. So the meaning shifted here. So D is wrong. So C is the right answer. Okay, so this is a traditional example of tone, right? So, and you should have spotted that right off the bat. If you just take a look here, A says caved, sold out, loosened up, relented. So first thing, you don't want to choose colloquial language, like ever. It's always going to be, when it's colloquial versus formal language, you always want to go with formal written language. No like sold out or, you know, like caved. Loosened up, like, you know, like, okay, so these are really colloquial. You should see that D is the answer here. All the other answer choices are really colloquial, which we do not want in a writing passage. Okay, so why don't we do the next passage, starting from 23 to 33. Yeah? 23. 26. 28. 21. 27. 34. 32. Okay. Okay, you can tell me, I mean, okay, tell me more if you have more later on. Let's just go over 23. What is this connecting? Okay, first of all, you need to recognize that it's a transition between this sentence and the sentence before this, right? So the sentence before this starts in the very beginning. Okay, is that right? Yeah, right? So this is the second sentence, this is the first sentence, right? So, I mean, regardless of where the conjunctive adverb goes, it's always going to specify the relationship between that sentence and then the sentence before that, right? It doesn't matter if I say like, okay, so if I say however, I think we went over this. However, I disagree. I, however, disagree. I disagree. However, okay, so who can tell me the difference in meaning? So 1, 2, 3. What's the difference in meaning? What's the difference? Yeah.
So wanting to disagree on the sentence before and the third one, like it's like disagreeing on that I disagree.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, actually, no, you're wrong. Sorry. It's all the same. It's all the same. Okay. That you should know for sure. Okay. All the same. Regardless of where the conjunctive adverb comes, this is always going to specify the relationship between this sentence and then the sentence that came before this. Always, right? Doesn't matter. So the position doesn't matter, right? So what about this one? Doesn't matter. Like it's specifying the relationship between this sentence and this sentence, okay? That's it. So let's take a look at the first sentence. So it says, built in blah, 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 the amphitheater of blah, blah, blah is renowned for allowing performers' voices to carry even to the last of its 55 rows, right? Okay, so it's renowned for this, right? Voices carry even to the last of its 55 rows, right? Pretty easy, right? So, okay, so now let's look at the second sentence. The source of this acoustic quality has long been misunderstood. Okay, source misunderstood. Right? So let's think about this. Is this a continuation? No, I don't see any kind of continuation. It's a completely different idea, right? This thing, if anything, it's taking a turn. Right? It's saying, yeah, this place is known for the voices to carry even to the last. Like the voice, it's very well spread here. I don't know, like that kind of thing. And then it says, but we don't know the source. It's a contrast relationship. And of course, it's not a cause and effect relationship. So you should be looking for contrast words. So how many contrast words do we have? Therefore, no. However, yes. Instead, okay. Consequently, no. Cause and effect. So I'm looking at B and C, but it's not going to be instead, right? So instead would be kind of like a on the other hand kind of thing, or whatever, but no, it should be however. It should be used in a more general sense, right? So they are renowned, but the source is misunderstood. But if we say instead, no, that will be kind of introducing an alternative or something like that, right? I didn't go to the store. Instead, I went to the theater, right? Something like that. '26. Effectively addresses the theories mentioned in the previous sentence. Okay, so make sure you don't infuse your own opinion in here. You're just going to look at the previous sentence and that's it. So it's the previous sentence, so it's not this sentence, okay? So it's not this. It's not this part. You need to look at the previous sentence, okay? So let's look at the previous sentence starting from, where's the previous sentence starts? Observers? This is where it starts, right? So this is the previous sentence. So let's take a look. Observers speculated, so they guessed, that the direction in which the wind blows, the rhythm of performance in ancient Greece, or the amplifying properties of actors' masks allowed sound from the stage to reach the entire audience. Okay, so direction of the wind, so it offers some theories, right? So the first is direction of the wind, and then rhythm of performance. So this is another possibility, or the actors' masks. This is the third theory, right? So we have three theories mentioned in the previous sentence, and then it says, but while these factors may have had some effect, okay, you see what's happening here? It's a contrast relationship, right? So it mentions the three theories, and then it says, these factors may have had some effect, right? So what do we need to do? Refute these, right? That's ideally what should happen. And what about? Let's take a look here then. And actors have performed there without special enunciation or augmentation. Okay. So it's not necessarily about the properties of actors' masks or the rhythm of performances. That's actually rebutting point 2 and 3. So I would need a point that that's a rebuttal of this, right? So it's saying I need a sentence that said, it's not necessarily the wind. It's not the direction of the wind. So A says what? A says Greek soprano Mariana Callas performed. Okay, we need to rebut the wind direction theory. What about B? Theater provides a fitting venue for the annual blah blah blah, which features. Please mention wind. Okay. C. Audience members continue to enjoy the beautiful view. What? Modern plays have been staged at E on windless days. There we go. That's how we rebut it. That's why it's D. '27. All right. What kind of question is this? What kind of question is this? Redundancy. Okay, so if you identify the fact that this is a redundancy question, you can solve this in 1 second. Why? You would just choose D if you're sure that it's a redundancy question. But redundancy questions, the really difficult ones, it will be harder to spot, right? We talked about this, right? What happens in easy redundancy questions? You're gonna get the same redundancy in all three answer choices. Like this, and this one is not going to have that redundancy, right? Remember, like initially for the first time, right? And then that's easily redundant, right? And you get rid of that. Initially for the first time, initially at the initially at the very beginning or something like that. Whatever that's going to be the same redundancy. But it could be a little bit harder, right? So what's another variation that can show up? What can happen is you have these three words in the answer choices, but you don't have that word here, and you don't necessarily see that redundancy at first sight, but upon closer examination, you see that in the passage, there is a word that is redundant with these three. So you're going to have initially here, and you're going to have for the first time here, right? You know what I mean? But it could be even harder. It could be something like this. This one has this kind of redundancy. This one has this kind of redundancy. This one has this kind of redundancy. They all have different redundancies. And this one doesn't have any redundancies. As long as you recognize that it's a redundancy question, you would just choose the shortest answer, right? But it could get even harder. Okay, even harder. Can have this, and then this one doesn't have that. But where's the redundancy? In the passage. In the passage, they're going to have that redundancy. You know what I mean? So you need to go through that list. So when you look at this question, you need to ask yourself, okay, so I don't know what kind of question this is, so let me ask myself, is this a comparison? Well, first of all, I know it's not a comparison, right? Why? Because there is no trigger word for a comparison. I don't see an ER then. I don't see an as, adjective as. I don't see similar to. I don't see unlike, right? So I don't see any of that, so it's obviously not a comparison. Is it a word pair? Do I see something like not only, but also? Not only, but also. No. As. No, I don't see that. Either or. No, I don't see that. Right? So that. No, I don't see that. Right? So I don't see any of that. Then what am I going to ask myself? Modifier. Is it modifier? No. Okay, it can't be. It can't be modifier. Well, we don't have a front modifier. We don't have a back modifier. We don't have prepositional phrases that are phrased differently here. Then it must be a redundancy question. Now ask yourself, okay, now I'm going to look for the redundancy. And you should be able to easily spot this redundancy at least, right? So conditions and circumstances. It would be the same thing. But what about B? Conditions and in these situations. Okay, so this one, yeah. What about C though? Conditions and were able to be heard. Well, what about this one? Audible, right? This one is redundant with this one. Audible and were able to be heard. So D. Introduces information in the paragraph. Okay? So a lot of these today. And yeah, well, actually, these would be relatively harder than the grammar questions. I would rather get these questions than grammar questions. So information in the paragraph. So I want to take a whole look at this, right? At least a cursory look at it. So D and D, suspected. Okay, so they kind of guessed, right? Suspected, speculated. What other word did we have before? Suspected, speculated. I mean, sometimes there's surmise, right? We didn't have that yet. But there was that other word we had before. I don't know. But you can use like hypothesize or thought, right? Suspected that the key might be the way sound waves reflect or break apart when they encounter surfaces. Okay, so what is he doing? Okay, so I guess they're presenting their theory, first of all, right? So this was their guess, and then it says, applying mathematical models, which had blah, 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 they found that, okay, so this is like a traditional science passage structure, right? So it's discussing a result here. They found that the tiered rows of blah, 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 blah did this, and then sounds with frequencies lower than blah, blah, blah are significantly dampened. Okay, so still talking about the result, right? So what is this paragraph? This paragraph talks about their suspicions, right? So their kind of hypothesis, and then it talks about their experiment, right? Okay, so now Let's go to A. It says, in considering the primary source of the theater's sonic properties. Okay, that's possible, right? I mean, they did consider all of this, right? So that's what they did in their experiment. So it is talking about that experiment. So A, you would leave. But what about B? Sensing that the ancient Greeks and Romans, what? No, we're talking about a scientific study. Why are we talking about ancient Greeks at all? It should be about a scientific study. What about C? Even though evidence suggests that the Greek builders did not understand, okay, what in the world? Okay, like, first of all, as soon as you see, even though you would need, like, you should be able to get rid of this. Why? Because how would a phrase that starts with even though set up information that follows? It's gonna, if you say even though A, right? B, A and B are going to be in a contrast relationship, right? How does that set up the next part? How does it set up this part? Doesn't make any sense, right? That itself is a contradiction, but I mean, even if you let that go, if you take a look here, still we're talking about the Greek builders, right? No, we shouldn't do that. We should talk about science-y stuff, right? What about D? Curious. Oh, sounds pretty good, right? Because the curious scientists, they performed this. This sounds a little bit promising. Curious about the effects of background noise on the sound quality. Okay, they weren't concerned about the background noise, right? It's mostly about, you know, what was their guess? If you take a look here. Sound waves reflect or break apart when they reach the surfaces. It doesn't have to do anything with the background noise. It's just the sonic properties of the theater. So A would be the right answer. What about 30? Okay, what kind of question is this? Someone tell me what kind of question this is?
Comparison.
Yeah, it's a comparison, right? Even if you end up saying this is not a comparison, you should have at least considered comparison, right? Why? Because more, right? Pretty important, right? I mean, you know, always noteworthy if you have a comparison, whether it's reading or writing, it's always worth it, right? So let's take a look here. This capacity helps people hear human voices more clearly. Okay, so obviously it's comparing human voices to something, right? So it's comparing human voices. So people hear human voices more clearly than, so human voices versus what? Human voices versus hearing sounds? No, it should be just sounds. It should be some kind of sound, since the number one thing that's being compared is a human voice. It should be voice versus another voice versus a sound, something like that. It shouldn't be a human voice versus hearing something. That's not a logical comparison. So A is gone. What about B? Less important sounds. Then it would be a sound. So this one is okay. Not having heard, not those of less. Okay, so if you chose D, what you're basically saying is this capacity helps people hear human voices more clearly than voices of important sounds. Do sounds have voices? No, that doesn't make any sense. So B is the right answer. 32. Okay. What kind of question is this? What kind of question is this? Oh yeah, subject-verb agreement. So whenever you have a verb underlined, you need to think it's a subject-verb agreement question. What's our other option if we have a verb underlined? Well, it could be a tone or word choice, right? But that would be pretty obvious, right? If it's a tone or word choice, we're going to have just grammatically equal answer choices just using different words, right? Like we saw earlier, it would be one of those, wait, what were the words that we had? Like noxious, disgusting, right? I mean, there's no grammatic difference between gross, foul, noxious, and disgusting. They're all adjectives, right? It's just asking, if it gives you just four of the same verbs, that's a word choice question. But this one clearly is a grammar question, so you need to think about the subject-verb agreement. So first off, what do you need to do? So in a subject-verb agreement question, you need to think about plurality, and you need to think about what? Tense, right? So what are you going to do for tense, though? So we talked about the cues for different tenses, right? So if it's like the present perfect, and you have it's the present perfect if you have the word since in a sentence, right? Since 2002, then you would go in the present perfect, right? Because that's implied in that word. Or what if I say just in 1911, if I start like this, chances are it's going to be in a past tense. Can't be in the future tense if we do this. Can't be in the so unless we have certain trigger words, we're just what are we going to do in terms of tense? We're just going to keep what we have, right? So we're going to look at the nearby sentences and we can just infer the tense, as long as we don't have a blatant contradiction within the sentence with other trigger words. Okay, so tense I don't want to think about right now. I just want to think about this. So what's the subject here? Huh? Why would you say effect? Yeah. Yeah, why did this take so long? How do you identify a subject and a verb? How do you identify a subject and a verb? Who can tell me how to identify a subject and a verb? Really? No one? 은지? How do you identify a subject and a verb? Why how come you don't answer me? You know all of that. Huh? Oh, okay. Okay, I guess that's what I need to do. Even if people get it wrong, I'll smile. Okay? So I guess that's what I've been doing wrong. So it's fine if you get it wrong. I will just smile. So okay. Yeah, preposition, we're not going to look at prepositional phrases. Okay, so there's no clear way to identify a subject and a verb, right? You just can't, you need to go the other way around. You need to think about what's not the subject and what's not the verb, right? And the three things that are not the subject and not a verb, number one, prepositional phrases, okay? And relative clauses. And modifiers. Okay? So these are not the subject. These are not the verb. So let's take a look. Okay, modifier, right? Or prepositional phrase, doesn't matter, right? The combination, no. Here, and then starting from of, it's going to be a what? What is this? Starting from of. Okay, prepositional phrase. Of virtual pitch and the sound of dampening effects of the seats. All right, it goes till the end. How do I know when the prepositional phrase is going to end? Well, I don't know. A verb needs to cut it off, right? You see what I mean? Okay, so the subject is the combination. Is that singular or plural? It's singular? But it's a combination. Huh? Yeah, it's singular, right? So, can I get rid of any answer choices here? How many? Huh? Okay, so is A singular or plural? Plural? Is B singular or plural? Huh? Is C singular or plural? Huh? Plural. Wait, why are you guys not answering this? You guys know this. Don't do this to me. Right? So, I mean, it's simple. Like, you don't even need to think about the tense. You just got rid of all three answer choices, just looking at plurality. Okay, 33. Sentence 7. Okay, sentence 7. Let's take a look. Okay, not gonna read this sentence, just gonna look at the other sentences first, and then just get the key phrases, okay? Make sure you circle the key phrases. This filtering effect explains why performers are easy to hear. Okay, filtering effect explains why, right? I mean, we know this is what we're talking about because this is what the passage has been talking about like for the entirety of it. What about number 2? Low frequency sounds such as wind, rustling trees, and other noises coming from the area around the theater are reduced. Okay, so low frequency sounds reduced when they bounce off the seats, bounce off the seats, whereas the high frequency sounds remained unchanged. Okay, so that's kind of the first explanation that it gives. And then it says performers' voices also contain low tones, and these two are muted by the theater seats. Okay, so it's because of the seats mostly and whatever, but this sound reduction doesn't impair actors' audibility, right? Okay, so reduction doesn't impair audibility. So it's explaining how it's helpful, right? It's helpful for the performance. And then this capacity helps people hear human voices more clearly, right? Human voices more clearly. 6, when exposed to speech that lacks their typical lower tones, the human brain automatically reconstructs the missing, reconstructs missing frequencies, right? So, I mean, this was like a full explanation, right? I mean, it gave us a lot of, a very multifaceted explanation. I don't know where a logical gap would be, but anyway, when I'm reading sentence 7, I'm looking, the primary things I'm looking for, compressive noun, pronoun, transition, right? Those are gonna be my hints. At E, the combination of virtual pitch, and the sound dampening effect of the seats. Oh, so this is what we've talked about here, right? Seats we've been talking about here, right? Virtual pitch. Okay, virtual pitch is this whole thing that we talked about here. Allows the performer's voices to be heard fully and clearly from any seat. Huh. I guess this kind of sums it up. Because it has these two ideas that were explained in this part. So I would just keep it where it is. So A. Wait, this is right? Is this the answer? Okay. Okay, so starting from 34 to 44. 41. 44.
37.
Hmm? What? 39. 38. 43. Okay, let's take a look at 34. All right, what kind of question is this?
Combining.
Nope. If it's a combining question, they would ask you to combine it. Parallelism, because of the and. I mean, you would... If you realize that it's a parallelism question, you just solved it. It will be you solving it instantaneously. Like, it is the right answer. But what I was getting at was you should at least in the beginning, like if you like, that is the right answer. But that's just you already solved it if you know it's a parallelism question. You know what I mean? But you know that is the right answer. But how do you get there? So you should tell yourself, okay, at first in the beginning, it should look like a sentence structure question for you, right? Because, I mean, this one, it has a period, right? This one, it has a dash. This one, it has a comma, and then we don't have a coordinating conjunction, right? It's not a coordinating conjunction. This one does have a coordinating conjunction. It's used as a coordinating conjunction, but it's kind of weird because you have a verb right after this, right? So it's kind of weird. So you would need to think about the sentence structure itself, right? And then you can get to the realization that it's a parallelism question. That's how you would go about solving this. Well, and by the way, can you start a sentence using and? Yes, you can. You saw it all the time in SAT passages, right? Can you start a sentence using but? Yes, you see it all the time, right? So that's possible, but this one is not, right? Why? Because we don't have a subject and verb after this. So A is just wrong. So A is gone. What about B? Well, all right, then we need to take a look at the sentence itself. The solar power industry in the United States has seen dramatic growth during recent years as energy, okay, so has seen. So we have a subject and a verb, and then we have a subordinating conjunction here, right? Energy consumers have sought. Okay, so again, we have a subject and a verb. Has sought to become more self-sufficient, diminish their environmental impact. What? So, okay, we have a comma, and then we have another verb here. So what's happening? So I guess this verb, this present tense verb is parallel to some other present tense verb, which is going to be this, become, right? So it's going to be become more self-sufficient, diminish their environmental impact, and lower their, so like, then you get to the realization, okay, it's a parallelism question. So D, right? 37 introduces the material that follows in the paragraph. Okay, so you need to read the following part. Let's take a look. Where does it end? Okay, is this the end of the paragraph? Okay, so we're looking at that. So you don't need to look at the part before this though, right? We're just going to look at this part. So jobs in this sector of the solar industry are quite profitable. And then it said this, right? So it gave me numbers, so it's probably going to be elaborating on it being quite profitable, right? Okay, so which one is going to set up quite profitable, right? Quite profitable. That should be your question, right? So A says, with California leading the country. Well, why are we talking about California? Oh, did somebody choose A? Chose A? Oh, no one chose A? Are you sure? I can check. No one chose A? Okay, B. In addition to being abundant and accessible. Yeah, that can do it, right? Abundant, accessible, plus, and then it says profitable, right? So this one is possible. It can introduce that. What about though they are less plentiful? Well, no, I don't want to see any those, right? So see, that's the thing. It's really weird if you say if you're introducing information and you start off talking about a contrasting idea. Also requiring some knowledge. So, okay, I guess you got confused with D. Right? I mean, you don't have to, I'm not asking who this is, but I mean, okay, I can see why you got confused. But if you thought it was D, this is actually, you thought about this too much. Okay? You thought about this too much. Okay, I said you don't need to look at the part before this, but you should realize that this passage, it's not necessarily talking about any kind of qualifications or that kind of thing. It's, I mean, no, okay, I'm kind of wrong. Okay, I shouldn't say qualifications, like characteristics of the jobs or whatever. It's just talking about the job market and how to get that job kind of thing. So, you know, if you, some knowledge of maintenance and you think, oh, you know, since it requires some knowledge, then it can be quite profitable. Well, that would be off with the tone of this passage though. Because the passage is like taking a macro look at the industry itself, right? We're looking at the industry and we're saying, oh, you know, like the job growth rate. Right? We're talking about the job growth rate and that kind of thing. So you would need to say, yeah, so there's a lot of jobs and it's accessible and it's also profitable. So we would need to take that approach, like a kind of detached look at, you know, what's happening on a macro scale in the job industry. Okay, so 38, what kind of question is this? Comparison, right? How do you know? How would you know? Well, comparable. So wouldn't it be a comparison, right? So what is it comparing? Well, even if you, okay, so say you saw this and you just let this go. Say you didn't notice this. If you look at all the answer choices, so A is talking about, it starts with those. B is talking about a skilled electrician. C is talking about wages. D is talking about electricians, plural, right? So it's all different. It's referring to different things. So you should think about that, right? So so let's take a look here. Solar installers' wages. Here we go. So this is what's being compared, right? So what are my possible options? So I want to say wages, right? I want to compare wages to wages, plural, right? So okay, so those, so I'm just going to leave this for now. B, I'm going to get rid of because this is not wages. This is a skilled electrician. C, wages, I'll leave it out. What about D? Gone, right? So it's either A or C. Now I need to read the whole thing, right? Okay, so let's take a look at A. Those of skilled electricians and plumbers. That sounds okay. Why? Because solar installers wages and then skilled electricians and plumbers wages. That sounds okay. What about C then? Is the problem because I mentioned wages again? No, that shouldn't be a problem. It's okay. You can do that, right? You don't necessarily have to always make it a pronoun, but the problem would come here. A skilled electrician, right? No, we don't want to do that. If we're staying in the plural noun form here, we also want to do that here. Okay, so it wouldn't be C, it would be A. We have plural noun here. So that's A. 39. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, first of all, what's the subject here? Again, this is a subject-verb agreement question, right? So what's the subject? Okay, so rapid proliferation, I'm going to let this go. This is probably the subject, and this is the prepositional phrase, right? Starting from of up till this, right? So our subject is singular or plural? Singular or plural, guys? Singular. Is A singular or plural? B? Yeah. Right? 41. Combine. Okay. Oh, okay. So this one, I guess this one was kind of tricky, right? Not really, but you know, relatively speaking, on this test, I feel like so. Huh? Up to here. Up to here. All right. So let's take a look. Solar power is now competitive with other energy sources in many markets. So okay. So this is key here, right? Solar power now competitive, right? So this idea, and then A says, this is not A, but actually, so what does this refer to? This is a compressive noun. What does this refer to? Solar power now being competitive. That's what it wants to refer to, right? That's the compressed idea, right? Solar power now comparable. I don't want to say that word. If I say this word, I'll give out the answer. So I'm trying not to say that. But it's one of the frames that we talked about. If I say solar power is now competitive, okay, so well I'll use a different one. It's kind of a before and after, right? I guess it didn't used to be. It wasn't the case that they were competitive, but now they're competitive, right? So there's that change. Okay, I'll say change. It is a change, right? So this change leads corporations, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's take a look. A says a development. Can we say that's a development? Yes, I think that's okay. So the meaning got across. That has led, okay, so it's just, yeah. I mean, it's just making this a whole, it's a backloaded sentence. So this one is okay, right? You're just modifying this whole thing. So it's okay. It's all grammatically all the answer choices are grammatically correct except this one. Well, no, this one is also grammatically correct, but I don't want to think about this, right? Why? Because this one has two clauses. All the other ones have one clause, right? I mean, it is okay, right? So I guess some of you chose D here, right? That's fine? No? All right, so let's think about this. What does competitive mean? Okay. Now I'm just gonna pick on Unji because I know you know, but you're just not answering. What does competitive mean? Huh? Yes. So if you say, okay, yeah, competitive, if you're competitive with something, it means 경쟁력 있는. It means, so it's a match. It's like an even match. Like you have a game, right? It's not like you get destroyed by the other side if you're competitive with something. Or, you know what I mean? Like, okay, if you say, that's how it's used here. If you say A is competitive with B, it means they're on par with each other and they're, you know, on the same level, right? On a level playing field kind of thing. But this would change the meaning then, right? We're not talking about a competition. We're talking about them being on an equal plane, right? So I guess what you need to realize here is this. So before was what? Solar power competitive with other energy sources. So what used to be the case is solar power used to be here, other energy sources used to be here, right? But now they're on an equal level, right? So this is what it's trying to convey here, okay? So you would need to say something like this, a development, right? This is the way to compress that idea. It's not a competition, right? We didn't suggest anything about a competition. So this one, like, meaning was really big here, right? It's better to say a development than an aspect of solar power. This one, well, first of all, this one is longer, and this one encapsulates that before an idea the best, right? It's a really concise and exact compressive noun here. So that's why it's A. What about this one? Okay, what kind of question is this? Hello? What kind of question is this? 여보세요? What kind of question is this? What kind of question is this, Woojin?
Punctuation?
No, there's no such question as punctuation. Yes, sentence structure, right? So, what do we do if it's a sentence structure question? Just look at the subject, look at the verb, look at the conjunctions, right? Okay, so consumers are, right? Okay, so blah, 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 and then we have a comma, right? So we have a comma, so what needs to happen after this? So if you have a subject and a verb and you have a comma, well, first of all, you can just have a modifier here. That's okay, like a back modifier, or you can have like a backloaded sentence saying like, oh, like something that we've seen like right now, a development, right? Or we can use like a verb ing or that kind of thing, right? What else can happen after this? Like a coordinating conjunction subject verb or a subordinating conjunction subject verb. This is also possible, right? These are all our options, but what can't happen, what can't happen? You know, what's like the prime example of something that can't happen after a subject verb comma? This, right? This can't happen. You can't just have SV without any kind of conjunction, right? Let's take a look here. Though, okay, though. What is this? No, there's no such thing in this world. What's though? What are we looking for? I said we're looking for conjunctions and subjects and verbs. Do we need to take that test on page 52 to 54 again?
Subordinating conjunction.
Okay, it's a subordinating conjunction, right? Okay, then let's think about it this way. Okay, so subordinating conjunction, and then as a result of their own efforts. So this one is just going to be a modifier, right? Industry employees can meet, right? Okay, so is A grammatically correct? Yes, it is grammatically correct. Are you going to choose it though? No, be extremely careful. Why? It's mostly because of this, as a result, okay? So if you think about this, if you can go two ways, and you've seen questions like this before. What kind? Well, this as a result this is going to be a transition, right? But depending on how you punctuate this as a result could be used as I don't know, like. You need to be careful about which one it's going to be transitioning. Like, though, what I mean is this. Okay, so not exactly because of this. If I say this, I'm giving out the answer. But anyway, I'll just do this. Okay, so let's say we just stopped here. Then this though can actually just modify the sentence before this. It's just elaborating on the relationship between the sentence before this and this sentence. If I stop here, if I pretend like this whole bit's not here. But if I start here, if I stop here, for example, then though as a result of their own efforts, and then this though is going to be specifying the relationship between the previous part and this part. You know what I mean? So although it is grammatically correct, you need to think about the meaning of this sentence. And in that case, you need to also think about this previous sentence, right? Because you need to think about that though. You need to think about, okay, why is this here, right? So if you take a look here, saving money over helping the environment, technological and economic developments in the solar power industry ensure they are doing both, right? They are doing both. Consumers are not the only ones for whom solar power is a win-win scenario, though. Okay, so this though is actually, I guess, it's in a contrast relationship with the sentence before this. So you need to kind of stop after here. You can't just continue on, right? So that's why C needs to be the answer, right? You need to stop here, right? You need to stop, and then this part is going to be an elaboration on consumers are not the only ones. It's a win-win scenario. It's also going to benefit other people. And the elaboration is, as a result of their own efforts, industry employees can meet demand for blah, 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 blah while doing this. It's also a win-win scenario for them, right? It's elaborating on that. So what's the best way to go about this question? If you can't figure it out, you need to just plug in every answer choice, okay, and think about it. And actually, okay, a very easy thing in this, okay, so I didn't think about this at all, but this one, these are just wrong, right? You wouldn't use a prepositional phrase after a comma like this. As a result, comma, of their own effort. That doesn't make sense, right? Okay, so other questions on the writing section. Okay, if not, take a break, come back and do the history passage where you all got destroyed. as usual, right?
Well, okay.
there's no question that all of you guys got wrong. So if you guys have a discussion session, you would get a perfect score on this test. But, you know, there's not one question that all of you got right. That's the bad news. So for every question, there's at least one person who got that wrong. Well, anyway, let's take a look at this passage. A lot of you, I guess, didn't have time for this passage. You just rushed through. In that case, what should you do? So if you don't have time, what did I say? If you're looking at like, okay, if you're just looking at number 35, for example, you know, that's a waste of time. You should do this, right? You should do the vocabulary and context questions. Anyway, okay, so let's take a look. So if you didn't have enough time to get to this passage, it means that you need to speed up on, I mean, obviously, yeah, but obviously you need to speed up, especially on the second passage. Always. Social science, right? We talked about this. Okay, so let's talk about this passage. So we have a lot of information here, and I didn't talk about this on purpose, actually. The Kansas-Nebraska bill. It only shows up one time on the test anyway. But I wanted to see how you guys do if I don't give you any background knowledge, but you know, that didn't turn out good. Anyway, let's take a look here. So defense. So he's defending something. Passage 1 is defending this. What is this? Douglas, senator from Illinois, proposed a bill allowing voters in the new territories of Kansas and Nebraska to decide whether slavery should be permitted there. That was, I guess, the Kansas-Nebraska bill, right? You guys should decide, okay, whether you're going to be having slavery or not, right? Who took U.S. history again? Do you guys not take U.S. history? No, okay. Okay, so remember when we talked about slavery, right? What was the issue? The issue was all the existing slave states, they wanted more slave states to come in, right? So that they can get more power in the Senate. What about the free states? They wanted more free states, right? So, you know, there was that conflict between the slave states and the free states. And one of the solutions proposed to that, right, at least initially, was the Missouri Compromise, right? What was the Missouri Compromise? So, say this is the United States. They just made a line here saying, okay, so if you're below this line, you can enter the Union as a slave state. But if you're above this line, you can't, right? That was the Missouri Compromise. But, you know, Douglas had other things in mind. This guy actually, okay, this is like a really long story, but anyway, we don't have much time. So I'll just give you the short version of the story. Anyway, so Kansas and Nebraska, it was unorganized territory. Unorganized territory meaning it wasn't a state yet. But in order to build a transcontinental railroad, right, they needed to organize this land. Well, why? Well, first of all, this guy, okay, so Stephen Douglas is from Illinois, like here, right? Illinois. And in the north side. So if you're a northerner, do you want a transcontinental railroad in the south or in the north? Do you think it helps the economy to have a railroad or it harms the economy? Yeah, of course it helps a lot, right? You can trade stuff directly with the West and with the East and that kind of thing. So he wanted the transcontinental railroad to go through the north, the first transcontinental so he was lobbying for this, right? And the Southerners, of course, they wanted the transcontinental railroad to go through the south, right? So there was that conflict. But the issue with having the transcontinental railroad in the north was there was this area called Nebraska, right? Unorganized territory. It wasn't a state, right? So it's really hard to build a railroad through unorganized territory. So that was the issue. So they needed to figure that out quick. But, there was that conflict about slave states and free states. So what Douglas proposed was, hey, why don't we just do this? And it's called popular sovereignty. Why can't I spell when I'm sovereignty, right? So is this right? Why can't I spell if I write on the board? Anyway, so popular sovereignty means let the people decide whether the state is going to be a slave state or a free state. Let's have a referendum, kind of, right? So that's how he wanted to decide it. But this would be going against the Missouri Compromise because it clearly stated that above the line, you can't have any slave states, right? So it's going against that compromise that the South and the North had early on. And actually what happens in the end is, this is kind of they divided this territory into two parts, Kansas and Nebraska. And the rationale was, Nebraska is going to be like a free state because people in the north side would go there more, and Kansas would be a slave state because people in the south would go there more. But what happened was a lot of pro-slavery people and a lot of abolitionists, they would actually move in order to vote. So they just moved there, right? So everybody would move there. They just moved just to vote, right? Just to make this a free state or a slave state. And then they had this major conflict here. And they actually fought a lot. This was like a miniature version of the Civil War before it actually happened. So so he's defending popular sovereignty. That's what passage 1 is doing. And passage 2, when enacted, the bill would effectively repeal meaning undo, the Missouri Compromise, which we talked about, which prohibited slavery in these territories. Passage 2 is adopted from a speech delivered in blah, 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 Charles Sumner, The Crime Against Kansas. Okay, so probably they're going to be against each other. So let's take a look at the passage. Passage 1 starts off saying, the argument of my opponents is predicated upon the assumption. So whose opinion is this? So this is going to be the opponent's view, right? So what do the opponents take for granted? That the policy of the fathers of the republic was to prohibit slavery in all the territories ceded by the old states to the Union. So, okay, so whatever this territory is, right? The assumption of the opponents is what? Oh, the fathers, meaning the founding fathers. The founding fathers wanted to prohibit slavery in this area. Right? That's the opponent's view, right? The opponent's view, they had the assumption that the founding fathers wanted to prohibit slavery in that area, whatever area they're talking about, right? And made United States territory for the purpose of being organized into new states. Right? And then what does he say? I take issue upon that statement, right? So he's attacking their assumption, saying, yeah, you guys assume that the founding fathers wanted to prohibit slavery and, they wanted to make it into new states, but I take issue upon that, right? You're probably wrong. So his counter argument is going to start right after this. What does he say? You find upon the statute books. So what is this? Statute means what? Law, right? Law. You find in the law books under Washington and the early president provisions. Okay, so he refers to these, right? This is his rationale, right? He says these. What do these show? That in the southwestern territories, the right to hold slaves was clearly implied or recognized. Okay, so he says, yeah, you assume that they wanted to prohibit slavery, but if you look in the law books, the right to hold slaves is there, right? So that's his argument. So if you look at let's just say statute books, right? If you look at the statute books, right to hold slavery, okay, right? That's his counter argument here, right? While in the Northwest Territories, it was prohibited. Oh, okay. So it's two sides to it, right? So this is the Southwest, right? Slavery okay in the Southwest, and in the Northwest, it's not okay, right? So this is his counter argument. And then what does he say about that? The only conclusion, okay, so he deduces something from this, right? So he makes a conclusion based on this, which is, drawn from that legislation, is that it was the policy of the fathers of the Republic to prescribe a line of demarcation. Demarcation meaning separation, right? Line of demarcation between free territories and slave-holding territories by a natural or geographic line, being sure to make that line correspond as nearly as might be to the laws of climate or production. Okay, so you need to get this point, or else if you don't, you're done for this passage if you don't get this, right? How to explain this? So he's saying, okay, so what happened in the Missouri Compromise? So in the Missouri Compromise, they made an arbitrary line, right? This line seems just really arbitrary. But what is he saying? He's saying this line itself is not important, right? This line is just, it's just trying to correspond to the laws of climate or production, right? So there are naturally gonna be states that lean towards slavery, right? Like, I mean, there's this line, but why did they make this line? Because states below this line, they're likely to be slave-favoring states, kind of thing. So what he's saying essentially is these come first. Laws of climate production, these come first, and the line that they drew is actually just trying to take account of that, right? And probably of all the other causes that would control the institution and make it desirable or undesirable to the people inhabiting the respective territories. So it's that entire point, right? So he's saying this line itself is not so important, right? Like this line comes second. It was a means for them to separate that area. You guys get it? So this line itself does not carry much meaning, is what he's implying here, right? This line is just an arbitrary line. There is a natural line, right? Just, climate or whatever, like just the natural line would be something like, I don't know, and they just wanted to, as closely as possible, account for this natural line of law, right? That's his conclusion. Conclusion is, so this natural law. And then he says, now I ask the friends and the opponents of this measure to look at it as it is. Okay, look at it as it is. What do you mean, look at it as it is? Just look at it okay, well, I don't know exactly what you mean here. Is not the question involved a simple one? Okay, so he's just asking, okay, isn't this a simple question? Whether the people of the territory shall be allowed to do as they please upon the question of slavery. Right? So he's just saying, shouldn't the people be allowed to do what they want? Subject only to the limitations of the Constitution, right? So this is his reasoning. Hey, think about this. So his point made after this is, people should do what they want. Shouldn't people do what they want to do? And then he says, that's all the bill provides. And that's his rationale. Popular sovereignty. Hey, let's make the people vote. Hey, what's your rationale against this? I'm saying let the people decide. What's your rationale? You know what I mean? Like, so this is kind of like a trap, right? Why? Because, if you deny that, that would be like saying, no, I don't believe in republicanism. I don't believe in democracy, right? I don't believe in the people's opinion. So that's what he's trying to say here, right? Something that, you have to agree with. It does so in clear, explicit, and unequivocal terms. I do not wish to deal in any equivocal language. Okay, so let's not complicate things. I don't want to talk about anything else. I just answer this question. Is it right for the people to decide or no? That's his point. Right? Can people decide? Can you let that happen? Right? If the principle is right, let it be avowed and maintained. If it is wrong, let it be repudiated. Right? But he doesn't necessarily mean this. I mean, no one in their right mind can deny this, right? He's proposing, hey, let's leave it to the people. But if you say, let's not leave it to the people, that would sound crazy. And he knows that. That's why he's making his point like this, right? Let all this quibbling about the Missouri Compromise, about the territory acquired from France, about the blah, 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 be cast behind you, right? So he's saying, hey, why are we talking about stuff that are essentially not at the crux of the issue? The crux of the issue is just, let's make the people decide. Why are we talking about the Missouri Compromise? Why are we talking about all of this? Can the people decide or no? Just answer that, right? That's how he's making his point. For the simple question is, will you allow the people to legislate for themselves upon the subject of slavery? Why should you not? Right? That's his point, right? Just a simple point. That's it, right? So what does he say in the very beginning? So in the very beginning, he says, the opponent's view, forefathers wanted to prohibit slavery in a certain region. That's the opponent's point of view. But he says, no, there was actually the Southwest and the Northwest in which this area slavery is okay, this area is not. So the conclusion that can be drawn is they wanted to account for the natural productions of that area. They wanted to foster production. If you wanted slavery, fine, do it. If you don't want slavery, fine, be a free state. They wanted to just account for that. That's why they have that line. The line is just a means to an end, right? The end is to account for this, right? And people should be able to decide what they want to do. Are you going to stop this, right? And you can't really go against this if you believe in republicanism, right? All right, so passage 2. What's passage 2 going to say to this then? All right, let's take a look. The Nebraska bill was in every respect a swindle. What's it mean, swindle? What's a swindle? Deception. Yeah, like in Korean, it would be 사기, right? Right, so he's saying the Nebraska bill was a swindle. It was a deception. It was a swindle by the South of the North. It was on the part of those who had already completely enjoyed their share of the Missouri Compromise. A swindle was a swindle. It's a swindle. It was a swindle. If you're reading this, not the best decision, right? If you find that point of repetition, especially in history passages, just think about Martin Luther King Jr., right? You guys know all know about that, right? I have a dream, blah 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 blah. I have a dream, blah blah blah. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. Talking about the same thing over and over again, right? Same here, right? He's just trying to say, in what regards this was a swindle, right? So, but the key thing that you need to get is just this: the Nebraska bill was a swindle. And then what does he say? No other word will adequately express the mingled meanness and wickedness of the cheat, right? So see, this is very connotative diction, right? Strongly connotative diction. That's what you should take note of. We talked about this, right? Tone words. So what's the author's attitude towards the Nebraska bill, right? So I would say he's pretty hostile towards this, right? The words that he used, it's really, really hot. I mean, he has a very negative view towards it, right? So that's our first point, right? He's saying it was a deception, it was a swindle. And then it says, its character was still further apparent. So you could see the character, which is The character being a swindle, right? So he's saying you could see that it was a swindle in the general structure of the bill. Okay, so if you see the general structure, you could also see that it was a swindle. Amid overflowing professions, profession meaning what? Is this job? Does this refer to jobs? Profess means what? Profess, we talked about profess before. Profess, profess. Hello? 여보세요? Now that I can't believe that Matthew and Guha are gone at the same time. I mean, they had to because of their IB schedule, but they were the only ones answering my questions, but now they're both gone. Well, not the only ones, but they talked a lot. So, profess means to talk, right? To say, not unlike to make a statement, right? Professions of regard for the sovereignty of the people, right? So they did say, hey, we care about the sovereignty of the people, right? We care about the sovereignty of the people. Well, what does sovereignty mean? Sovereignty means what? We talked about this a lot of times. Tokju, what does sovereignty mean? Similar, but no. Okay, so sovereignty is, I mean, well, basically you can think of it as ownership, right? I mean, like if you're a sovereign state, if you're a sovereign country, you make your own decisions. We talked about this, right? It's not other countries making decisions on behalf of your country. It's your country owning your own country, and they make decisions on their behalf, right? That's what sovereign means, okay? So professions of regard for the sovereignty of people, okay? So they say, hey, we care about your sovereignty. We care about your authority as a people, right? But they said this, but what did they say? They were despoiled of every essential privilege of sovereignty, right? So what did they say? They say, hey, we care about your sovereignty. But what did they do? They took away the privilege of sovereignty, right? It was gone. What does it say? Well, what do you mean they got rid of their essential privilege of sovereignty? Let's find out more about this. They were not allowed to choose their governor. Okay, so I guess these were the privileges, right? Choosing your own governor, secretary, chief justice, associate justices, attorney, marshal, all of whom are sent from Washington, right? So they didn't get to choose their own people to sit in these positions, right? So they were all appointed from the federal government, right? Nor were they allowed to regulate the salaries. Okay, so I guess it's talking about these two things when it talks about privilege. Number one, choosing their high governmental position people, and also determine the salaries of these functionaries, or the daily allowance of the legislative body, or even the pay of the clerks and doorkeepers, but they were left free to adopt slavery. Right? So they really didn't get to decide anything except vote for slavery. You know, they got despoiled of every other privilege, such as choosing their functionaries, determining the salaries for their functionaries, kind of thing, right? So he's saying it's kind of ironic, right? It was a swindle, right? And he says, and this was called popular sovereignty. Okay, so he's saying, yeah, this is ridiculous. Time does not allow, nor does the occasion require, that I should stop to dwell on this transparent device to cover a transcendent wrong. So he's saying, I I shouldn't say nothing about this. I need to say something about this, right? There is this transparent device. I can't cover this transcendent wrong, right? Like you have such a wrong here, but you only have like a 투명, transparent paper. You can't cover that, right? That's what he's saying. Suffice it to say that slavery is in itself an arrogant denial of human rights. Okay, so this is how he defines slavery. So for the purposes of passage 2, the definition of slavery is what? Arrogant denial of human rights. I don't know anything else about slavery. When it comes to passage 2, all he means when he talks about slavery is arrogant denial of human rights, right? And by no human reason can the power to establish such a wrong be placed among the attributes of any just sovereignty. Just meaning what? 그냥? What does just mean?
Justified.
Yes, like just the just when you talk about justifying something, when you're talking about justice, right? That just, right? So he's saying slavery does not go along with the just sovereignty, right? So if you have slavery by a parity of reasoning, it means you're unjust. You're not a just sovereignty. In refusing it such a place, in refusing slavery such a place, I do not deny popular rights, but uphold them. Oh, okay. You see what he's doing? So passage 1 is saying, hey, do you agree that people should have sovereignty? Will you let them vote for this? But he's saying, no, well, not for slavery, because slavery is in itself, it can't go along with the just sovereignty. So it shouldn't be an issue. So I'm the one upholding a just sovereignty, right? I can't go along with slavery. I do not restrain popular rights, but extend them, right? Yeah. So he's saying, I am the one extending popular rights. And sir, to this conclusion you must yet come unless deaf, not only to the admonitions of political justice, right? So he addresses passage 1, right? Saying, yeah, you need to come to this conclusion, right? This is the conclusion that you need to come to, but also to the genius of our own constitution, under which, okay, so our own constitution says what? When properly interpreted, no valid claim for slavery can be set up anywhere in the national territory. Okay, so this part is in direct contrast with passage 1. Why? Because in passage 1, it says, if you look here, it says slavery is okay, right? But this person's saying, oh, if you look at the Constitution, no, slavery is wrong. Huh, wait. Oh, okay, here we go. No. Oh, yeah, it was this question, sorry. Close your eyes. Who chose, okay, so for 31, who chose A, B, C, D? Okay, good. So, take a look. Recognized, if you go back to line 12, it's here, right? Implied or recognized. Think about this. If you use the word or, if I say, for example, A or B, will they mean the same thing or different things? Different, right? I would ask you, do you want apples or oranges, right? I wouldn't say, do you want apples or apples? I mean, yeah, bad example. But if you use an or, it means they're kind of different in some regard. And you do need to know this. This is an important part in United States history. Okay? So what does it mean to be implied? Okay, so they have a lot of debate over this over the years regarding the Constitution. Okay, so some people looked at the Constitution and they thought the Constitution had implied powers. Implied powers meaning the people construing, meaning the people interpreting the Constitution can look at the Constitution and they can say, hey, okay, so the objective of the writers of the Constitution were probably along these lines, and they could guess about their intentions, and they could deduce from that, even if it's not written in the Constitution, they could say, hey, we can do this because this was their intention, so we can kind of infer a lot, right? So those are the implied powers, right? But some people, on the other hand, said, no, we shouldn't really infer anything. Everything that we can do is strictly written in the Constitution. So unless it's written in the Constitution, we shouldn't really do any of that, right? So that was the thing. So here it's saying that, right? He's saying it's clearly implied, right? So the meaning is there, right? Meaning it's not directly written there, but it's still there, right? But as opposed to that, recognized. So he's including both of that, saying it's either implied. I mean, we do a lot of imply and infer questions, right? So if it's implied, it doesn't mean it's directly there, right? It's not that the meaning is directly there, but it's still intended, right? So that or recognize. So the answer for this would be A, right? So let's take a look here. Passage 1, Douglas implies that legislators' consideration of the bill he has proposed has been clouded by. Okay, so he's saying, what does it mean clouded? Meaning, like the essence of it's being lost, right? The essence is lost. We're talking about things that are fundamentally beside the point, right? So what did he think was fundamentally the point? It was this, right? People should be the ones deciding, right? Do you agree with this or no? No, let's not talk about the Missouri Compromise. Just answer this. Should people do this or no? That was his approach, right? So I want to choose that. The other ones were all the discussions about the Missouri Compromise of what treaty, blah, 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 that kind of thing, right? So it's not the moral dilemmas, it's not the language discussion of issues that are beside the point here, right? So he didn't want to talk about issues beside the point. He just wanted to talk about whether people should be able to vote or no, right? Should they able to decide this or no? So what about this one? What kind of effect does swindle have? Right, well, yeah, I mean, you get it. He repeats it a lot of times, and the connotation that it's asking for, right? A skeptical tone. I mean, I just want, okay, so it's all pretty negative, so I can't really eliminate any answer choices here. So I need to take a look at the part that follows. So it says, skeptical tone that reveals Sumner's distrust of his fellow senators. It's not about his fellow senators. It was about the bill, not his fellow senators. You can't infer this. Okay? What about B? An outraged tone that expresses Sumner's indignation. What does indignation mean? What does indignation mean? Benji? Anger. But you know everything. Why don't you? Okay, anger over the Kansas-Nebraska bill. This is exactly right? I mean, he says in the beginning the Kansas-Nebraska bill was a swindle, right? So yeah, this should be our answer, but I'll take a look at the other ones. Pessimistic tone that reflects Sumner's conviction that the Kansas-Nebraska Act cannot be repealed. Well, no, he's not talking about it can't be canceled. He's just talking about how bad it was, how 사기, what a deception it was, right? An aggrieved tone that shows Sumner's sense of betrayal over the founding fathers. No, he actually doesn't think the founding fathers supported slavery, as we see in the last sentence of passage 2. So no. So it should be B here. And then 35 is one of Sumner's central claims. Okay, so it's one of his claims, so it could be any, right? Kansas-Nebraska bill had the effect of, okay, so what effect? So do we have a line reference? Yes, we do, but I don't want to go back. Why? Because this is, I don't want to go to this question first, meaning, because this is way too general, I feel like. Because, it's just talking about the Kansas-Nebraska bill. It could be, there could be a lot of potential answer choices. So A says, disrupting the balance of authority between, no. Okay, so this is trying to play off of your prior knowledge. Okay, but we didn't have anything about a conflict or a balance between the slave states and the free states. So this is irrelevant. Depriving a federal policy that enjoyed wide, we did not talk about popularity. Okay, this is an irrelevant idea. So, see, disenfranchising citizens. What does disenfranchise mean? What does enfranchise mean? To give rights. That's what enfranchise is. What does disenfranchise mean? To take away rights. Disenfranchising citizens in territories. Where in the world did we talk? Okay, they didn't necessarily disenfranchise them. Also, their privileges, although they were not given their privileges. But disenfranchising would be taking away all their fundamental rights and that kind of thing, right? If you were confused with this, let's just leave it. Let's just take a look at D. Giving the impression that the rights of citizens in certain territories were being expanded when they were in fact being curtailed. Yeah. So what were they doing? They were saying that we care about sovereignty, right? We care about your sovereignty. We care about your sovereignty. Vote on this issue. Vote on slavery. But what was happening? They couldn't decide who their governors were going to be. They couldn't decide what their salaries were going to be, right? So that was what this refers to. D, and then the line reference is that point, right? Amid overflowing professions of regard for popular sovereignty, they were essentially despoiled of every essential privilege. So line, B here, right? Let's take a look at line 76, right? So in refusing slavery, such a place, I do not deny popular rights, but uphold them, right? So this is what we talked about in the passage, right? So passage 1 says, hey, should we let the people decide? Do you want to let the people decide this or no? And if you don't do that, you're going against popular sovereignty. But what does passage 2 say to that? He says, well, slavery is in itself, it doesn't go along with the just sovereignty. You would be unjust. You would be an unjust sovereignty if you go with slavery. So by doing this, I'm not actually refusing popular rights. I'm upholding popular rights, right? By refusing slavery such a place. Right? So what's our answer going to be here? So it's going to be D, right? His position on slavery is authentic popular sovereignty. Okay, what does authentic mean? You guys don't know what authentic, okay. So what does authentic mean? Huh? What was that? I can't hear because of the mouth. Unji, what did she say? Huh? Oh, reliable. Okay, not reliable. It would be, yeah, something that's, yeah, okay, genuine is okay, right? In Korean, 진정성 있는. So like, okay, so, you know, a lot of people talk about like, oh, you know, if you, okay, so it's Panda Express. Who's been to Panda Express? What in the world? What? You guys haven't, wait, who's been to the States? Who's been to the States? What? You guys haven't been to Panda Express? You guys been to, okay, did you guys see a Panda Express? How can you guys not have gone to a Panda Express? That's it's mind-blowing. Wait, okay. Oh. Okay, so who likes pineapple on their pizza? Raise your hands higher so that I can kick you out. Wait. Okay, well, Italians don't like pineapple on their pizza, right? Why? Well, because they would think it's not authentic pizza if it has pineapple on it, right? Real pizza would not have pineapple on it, right? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so let's say, for example, okay, let's say, for example, who's had a 양꼬치 before? Okay, so if you go to like a 양꼬치 place and you see the people like speaking in Chinese, right? The people who work there. I'm like, oh, okay, this place is like authentic Chinese, right? Because they're speaking, what is that? Chinese, right? If you go to like a 국밥집, right? What should happen? I mean, like the 아줌마 there should yell at you, right? Then that's authentic, right? If she's too nice, I'm like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? That's what authentic means. If the banchan is too clean, I would be like, what's going on here? It needs to be kind of dirty. Then I'm okay, you know, this is how it should be, right? And then on the television there should be like news coming out, right? And it's talking about like North Korea or something. That's what usually happens in a 국밥집, right? And that was a joke. Anyway, that's what authenticity is. Okay? Something that's real. Like it's not fake, like genuine, right? So he's saying his position is real. Not the other guys who think they can vote on slavery and say that's popular sovereignty. His position is real. Right? Okay. For homework, hey, take a look at the reading workbook for a second. I'll get your book later, but which set do we need to do next? I know for writing is set 11. So okay, so the reading workbook it's 9, and writing is 11. Okay. And also bring your test tomorrow, so that we can also do the other passages. So please bring your test. Okay. Well, I'm not so worried about that because you're just gonna put it in your bag and never. You're not gonna even pull it out of your bag, right? So I'm not worried. Okay, you guys can leave your bags and then you guys can go have lunch over there.